Session. ¿Hay alguien aquí que necesita intérprete para esta junta? Kermit? No. Thank you. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and BC is going to lead us in that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just a notation that Pat Midgard is absent. We didn't hide her anywhere up here. She is absent today. 3B, approval of the agenda, and I would like to amend that. Somebody,
Yeah, I would move that we pull 5G off the agenda for separate discussion.
thank you. Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We have no general comment, correct? Okay, so now we go to report of action taken in closed session. There was no reportable action taken. We do have 2 students up for expulsion. The first one is case 2017-18.
Move to expel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
There's one absence.
And one absent. Thank you for reminding me. Now, do we have to say her name or just say one absent? There's a new law, so I have to say that for every vote that we take.
Pat's still not here.
Pat is still not here. Second student, this is case 2017-21. Do I hear a motion?
Move to expel.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And do we have any other action on that?
Move to suspend the expulsion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Pat is still not here.
I would move for the record, for the minutes for this meeting, that when we note there's one person missing, that it's Pat Midgard.
Thank you.
The agenda, as I take the vote, will record that she is absent.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So we can just say one absent for all of these. Thank you. 'Cause that would-
For the record, Pat is still not here.
Okay, now we have the superintendent's report to the board.
Thank you. Well, as you know, today was the first day of school for all of our schools, and cabinet members and myself and even some board members were out at sites today, and we had a great first day of school. It was very smooth. I was joking with a couple of the principals. By the time I got to a couple of the sites, it was already mid-morning, and you would know it was the first day of school. It was just so smooth. But I was at some sites where they were doing their opening exercises and directions to students, and it was really fun to listen, you know, like at an elementary site versus a high school site, what they're saying to students about what they expect. But the themes are very consistent. You know, we expect kids to be respectful, on time, work hard, you know, all those themes that you hear teachers talking about. But it went very well, very pleased. And our enrollment, we had a meeting, cabinet and I late today, and we'll be doing this every day for the first 10 days. Our enrollment is right on track. Always on the first day it looks low, but thankfully Alvaro's been tracking this in his computer now, and what we find is from the first day of school till October seabed's date, of course, it grows quite a bit. But in the first 10 days, we now know what to expect. And so today's enrollment, which was, you know, around 11,400 without advanced path, independent study, GPS, was higher than we anticipated, which means 10 days from now we expect, I think it's about a 5% increase, Alvaro, over the first 10 days. We expect to be above our projections. If that trend follows the routine that we've seen the last few years, we expect it to be above, which would be nice. And I'll send you the actual enrollment tomorrow's in my Sunday report so that you can see it. I always have a lot of monthly meetings, but this past month, our Business Ed Partnership Committee came back together to start planning in earnest for Rock the Mock, which I'll tell you again is going to be in November this year, November 2nd and 3rd. And we hope every one of you will be an interviewer again. That would be great. We had our facilities subcommittee meeting on August 10th and a walkthrough of Gilroy High on August 8th. And it's just amazing what we're doing at Gilroy High. You have to see it. Some of you have. It's pretty amazing. The parking lot it's just incredible. The day we went on our walkthrough on August 8th, they had paved about 2/3 of the parking lot. Now it's completely done. It looks so cool. We don't have the solar panels on yet because we wanted to get kids and people into the parking lot this first week of school, but the panels are coming. In fact, at Christopher, I noticed today they've started putting the panels on. And they're doing Christopher first, and then they're going to come over to Gilroy and finish. But the parking lot is transformed. You all know how awful it was. It's just incredible. And so shortly we'll have the panels up and be done in the parking lot. I think that's due in this month. You'll probably talk about it. We walked through the student center where we're going to be able to hear each other soon. We're still working on the acoustic panels are up. We're waiting for the wall, I believe, but the acoustics work is finally almost there, and we expect to have much better sound. We've started the 20 classroom new wing project, and that was pretty impressive. We've moved some portables over and making room for the new 20 classroom wing that'll be in by next September. But just a tremendous amount of work, and I want to commend our facility staff, primarily Jim and the project managers, and all the people. It seems like we've got a really good contractor and crew working on this project, so it's great. We had some special meetings this month. I mentioned the management retreat last time. We had two really amazing speakers. The woman in the top right, Angela Alvarado, a deputy DA, did a great presentation on how kids are using social media. It was pretty scary, actually, but it was really fun to listen to her. And we had a couple other really dynamic speakers. Maribel Martinez from the county of Santa Clara talked to us about LBGQT issues. Just a wonderful presentation. We always have activities during our management retreat, so you can see us trying to do an activity over there in the bottom left. That's during our breaks to make sure we're alert during the day. But anyway, it was a good management retreat. Our new certificated staff orientation was on August 10th in our annex, and it's just really great having the annex. I can't tell you how wonderful it is to have a dedicated space for trainings and meetings with large groups of people. So we had 81 new teachers comfortably seated in that room, and we're working on some of the multimedia aspects of the room, but it's a really cool place. James came over and we welcomed all of our new staff, Cabinet and I, and we're very excited about those 81 new teachers. Professional development for all staff occurred on August 15th, and it was all over the district. I was able to stop by Rod Kelly and ADB, where we had our elementary PD, and Gilroy High, where we had our secondary, and I know we had some training for our paras. And then on the 15th, Kim and I went over and welcomed all of our food service staff, again in the annex, a large group, so it was a great place to be able to do that. I want to highlight a few. There's the food service welcome. Oh, I didn't even know you took that picture. Great. That was cool. And we have a lot of events coming up. We have, I believe we're going to show on the screen, our back to school nights. They begin August 21st through August 24th for elementary, and late August through early September for middle school. And we're going to show you, I believe, do we have it? The list, because I'm not going to read it off. And we'll send it to you in my Sunday report. You'll have the complete list of the upcoming, if you don't already, we may have already sent it to you. The back to school nights we did, great, good. A couple other things that are coming up in late August. I attended, by the way, I forgot that, the Gilroy High coaches meeting. I attend the coaches meeting every year, and I throw in my, not 2 cents, my 40 cents worth of comments about high school athletics. So I already attended the Gilroy High meeting, and we introduced the new handbook, which you approved. The Christopher High meeting is coming up on August 23rd, and I'll be doing the same. And then my fall site visits begin August 29th, and I don't know, have we sent them the schedule, Gina? I can't remember. No. We'll send you the schedule, and as you know, on my fall visits, you're welcome up to about 3 of you. I don't like overwhelming the schools by having too many of us, but you're welcome to join me on the fall site visits. And then at the end of the month, before our next board meeting, I will be attending the annual the Santa Clara County Superintendent's Association retreat in Santa Cruz. It's a 2-day retreat, August 31st and September 1st. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Been busy, as
Yep.
usual. Okay, consent agenda. Move approval with minusing item G.
So moved?
All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. And item G, I'll speak to that. Trustee Good, or do you want to start?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Overnight out-of-town field trip for Gilroy High School girls water polo to Buchanan High School in Clovis. I have nothing against this trip. What I have a problem with is the paperwork. And when who only look at these things twice a month, and when I see paperwork that the GUSD 67, which is the form, and it says leaving Gilroy High Friday, September 29th at 3 p.m., and the itinerary that's attached says leaving Gilroy High Friday, September 29th at 10:30 a.m., indicates to me that it's just cut and pasted from last year. And we need to, these are legal documents, and they need to be done with care. And yes, I'm sorry, I'm that board member that looks at those things and have sent them back and sent them back. Today, I'm taking it off the consent agenda. But in the future, I will deny and oppose approval for anything that comes to us with paperwork that is shoddily done and not carefully presented in a board packet. I know we're all busy, but we need to really look at that.
And I would add that this isn't new. We used to have a major problem with very poor paperwork on field trips, and we started rejecting them and sending them back. In some cases, the field trips were canceled because it wasn't done in sufficient time. So this is kind of like a last best chance. The next time we see this, it's likely it'll be rejected, I think.
Well, it will be by me.
Yeah,
don't know if we'll have a majority.
I won't support it either.
Any other comments from board members? Okay, that being said, second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. So now we go to 6, action information items. Report on the Gilroy High School Choir Costa Rica trip. And thank you for submitting your paperwork and that it was perfect. And you win.
So Jonathan Souza and others are here to give us a report. And I probably scared you this morning, Jonathan, when I asked you if you were going to bring the choir and sing, which I never asked you to do that, so.
We're excited to hear your report.
Well, thank you for inviting us and giving us the opportunity to present about our Choral Booster sponsored performance and service learning sightseeing extravaganza to Costa Rica. Our tour is titled Paz, Música y Pura Vida. Pura Vida is a saying that they use in Costa Rica for many different things, including hello, goodbye, sure, why not? A lot of different settings you can use that. Music, obviously, música is music, and paz is peace. And Christina will talk, who, if you don't know my wife, this is Christina, and she's a big part of the planning of this tour and our previous tour to Ireland, and we brought in some different components that didn't exist previously on the tours for that Gilroy High School took. But just a real quick overview of kind of the historical context of how we find ourselves going to Costa Rica and doing this trip. Gilroy High School Chamber Singers has a long history of performing internationally. And in fact, Mr. Rob took his first international trip was to Taco with his chamber singers at the time, and they did that trip several times. And then at some point, Mr. Rob wanted to do a different trip, and so they started exploring Europe. So they've been all over Europe under Mr. Rob's direction. And then the last two trips were to Ireland in 2015. That was my first international trip with the Chamber Singers. And then, of course, this year to Costa Rica. The Chamber Singers are an outstanding group of young people that represent not only Gilroy High School, but our district and our community of Gilroy, and our state of California, and our country. And I say that proud, like a proud daddy up there. And they are amazing young people, and the Costa Ricans and international individuals we interact with always comment on the character and the enthusiasm in which our students are presenting themselves and learning about their host country that they're going to. So that's been a really great thing to see, and see these young people grow into that role. For the past two tours, in addition to the performance opportunities that were present in all the tours, we renewed that community focus that initially existed with the taco exchanges, and so I'll let Christina speak a little bit to that, because she has a special interest and focus on the community service outreach and service learning aspect of these tours. But just for context, first, our tour is a performance tour, as you would expect from an organization. Then secondly, it's a service learning tour or community outreach tour. And then third, we get to see some sites. So before we go on, I'll let Christina kind of speak to how her perspective and how she fits into the tour and the planning and whatnot.
Hello, thank you for having us tonight. So I'm Christina Souza, and I'm a socio-emotional counselor. I'm currently working with Pajaro Valley Unified School District. And for John and I, our experiences traveling internationally, living internationally, completely changed our lives, changed our worldview. And for many years, it's been our dream to kind of pay it forward by taking students in our community to other countries to have similar experiences. And so we are just so proud and happy to be able to have these opportunities. So when we came to Gilroy and this opportunity presented itself, we were very excited. And I kind of jumped in and said, can I please piggyback on this? I would love to add the service learning and cultural exchange components. That's very near and dear to my heart and my passion. And so I've been able to do that. So I'm completely honored to have been a part of these last two tours, and I'm hoping there are more. So thank you.
Oh, is it gonna change? Yes. One more time? No?
Change
There it is.
There we go.
Just a couple pictures. This is after our first performance and at the Basilica there, which is one of the sacred sites in Costa Rica that we were allowed to sing in. We had to get special permission, and inside there is the church. You can see it's beautifully painted and has relics. It's a Catholic church, and that was a pretty special performance. So we had a total of 45 individuals participate on this tour, including 24 of our 28 chamber singers, which when you consider the amount of money that this costs per student and the fundraising effort that goes into that with the boosters and the parents' contributions and just the sheer force of that fundraising effort is pretty extraordinary that we were able to have almost all of the chamber singers go. The 4 chamber singers that didn't go had other summer plans. One was competing with DCI, a marching band, big drum and bugle corps. Another was getting ready for college. And so we're pretty proud of our participation rate. I introduced myself, Christina, and then I'd like to recognize our other staff members. We call them staff members, but they're super awesome roadie groupie chaperones. And Liz Hale, who's here, and Rory Pace, Matthew Hungerford, and Chris Leong. I'd just like to thank them publicly for all that they did for me so I could be the director and group leader. And they really took the lead on all student supervision and making sure our students from Gilroy were in a safe environment at all times. So thank you very much for that. We, of course, brought our accompanist, and then we travel with a company called Encore Tours for a variety of reasons, insurance being one of them, and just the full-service tour experience and having 2 full-time tour managers with us at all times, plus the professional bus driver, and then a whole office staff in Costa Rica to deal with things that come up when you deal with international travel. Some things are planned out mostly, and then you have to figure it out. And without that outstanding staff on 24-hour speed dial, it goes much less smooth. And so we had a really great time with all of those details. Woohoo! It's one of our a couple of our seniors there, and the Opera House, which is modeled after the Opera House in Paris, and then the Costa Rican flag there with a statue outside the Opera House, and butterflies everywhere. So some of the activities that we participated in were obviously our performances, and there's a list there, the Basilica in Cartago, the University of Peace. We ended up singing a couple songs there informally, and then a small Catholic church about the size of this room in Monteverde, and an impromptu, unexpected performance at the University of Costa Rica in Punta Arenas with a very gracious community choir that rehearses there. And then in Orotina, we had a formal performance with the Alajuela Singers, and then the National Institute of Music at their School of Music in one of the recital halls with their National Youth Choir. And then Christina can kind of fill in some of the information about the service learning and whatnot at this point. Go ahead.
So 2 years ago on our first tour, when we decided to add these components of service learning and cultural exchange, I guess I'll say it was a little outside of the comfort zone of these exceptional performing students who were like, what do we have to do? And so the first thing we did in Ireland was we did go to a nursing home and we performed and then broke out into groups and spoke with the residents one-on-one or in groups. And it was definitely outside of their comfort zone, but we did some role playing ahead of time and did a lot of talks in community circles to try to ease their nerves. But a lot of them were pretty unsure, and we were pretty blown away when the experience actually happened. Every single student was engaged and was just completely engaged with the community there in Ireland, sharing their experiences of what it's like to be from Gilroy, from California, from the USA, asking about their experiences in Ireland. And I was just so touched by the character of our students that so many of them afterwards said that was their favorite part of the trip. So that speaks a lot to who they are. So this year, I was all ready, and what kind of role-playing or things are we going to do to prepare them for this experience? And it was not a problem. We had some students that had been on the Ireland trip. They just jumped to it, no worries, engaged 100%, and were just ready to go and knowing what to expect. So it was very impressive. And they worked really hard. They did a pretty big community service with helping a nonprofit organization move an enormous amount of theater equipment all the way from one end of the town to the other, just busload after busload, and smiling and laughing the whole time, no complaints whatsoever, so they're impressive. So in addition to that this year, we did also add going to the University of Peace, the United Nations mandated University for Peace. And so there was an additional educational component added. And the students were able to take a couple of workshops from the instructor, one of the instructors from the University of Peace. They learned about conflict resolution styles and different components about conflict resolution. They also learned kind of an overview of positive psychology and how they could use that in their world to maybe become change makers, peacemakers. And once again, these students just blew everyone away. And the instructor afterwards said she had to really up her game working with these students because she had to rise it to another level because they already were familiar with a lot of the concepts that she was presenting. So, yep, they're great kids. They just really represented Gilroy Unified in an amazing way. And again, so proud to be a part of it.
There's a group picture of us in front of their mission statement there. Can't read it. I have another picture somewhere else where you can read it. Or you can go on their website. It's really easy to find. It was a really great experience and pretty inspiring to see these young people engage at such a high level in that kind of workshop. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Hale, class of 2018. Congratulations. First day of school. All right. And both Jeffrey and Sloan were on our Ireland trip as freshmen. Yes. Oh my gosh, that seems crazy. And I asked them, but since they've had both those experiences and they're outstanding students at Gilroy High School, I thought I'd give them opportunity just to give their perspective on this tour and speak to international travel or whatever they felt like they wanted to share with you. So Jeffrey, go ahead.
Good evening, Dr. Flores and school board members. Thank you for letting me take some time to share some experiences from the 2017 GHS Chamber Choir Tour titled Paz Musica y Pura Vida. There were 24 students and at least that many parents and chaperones that went on the trip. We all had an amazing experience visiting many beautiful sites in Costa Rica. We had a wonderful opportunity of visiting different historical places there. We went to the Basilica in Cartago, the National Museum in San Jose, and the University of Peace in Cologne. Visiting these places in Costa Rica was interesting because we got to hear cool facts about Costa Rica. At the National Museum, we learned about the geographical origin of Costa Rica. At the Basilica, we were able to learn about the culture and religion, and we also got to sing a couple of songs in the Basilica. During the trip, we also had the opportunity of doing fun touristy activities like ziplining through the rainforest, going on a night hike in Monteverde, taking a jungle tour in the Monteverde Cloud Forest, going to a Costa Rican beach, and many more. During all of these fun experiences, we got to see a lot of beautiful plants and animals. On the night hike, we saw snakes, sloths, a scorpion that glows in the dark, and many more cool nocturnal creatures. On the jungle tour, we saw beautiful birds, a lot of hummingbirds, a lot of butterflies, and a couple monkeys, and beautiful trees and flowers. Most of these things I never could have seen or experienced in California. On the last day, we went to the National Institute of Music, and we got to sing with their choir there. We practiced some songs, and later that evening we had a concert. Their choir sang some songs for us, we sang a couple for them, and then we sang together for all the parents who were watching. This was personally one of my favorite experiences on the trip because it was really cool to come together and sing some American songs and some Costa Rican songs. I'm grateful to be part of Gilroy Unified School District and the Gilroy High School Chamber Choir. I appreciate the opportunity I've had to travel with Mr. Souza and my fellow students. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And then for Sloan.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sloan Pace. As it says, I'm a senior at Gilroy High School. Today was my first day. I'm also the school board rep, so I'll be up there in not too long. In a couple of meetings, I'll be sitting up there. But tonight, I'm speaking as a chamber singer. So as mentioned earlier, I was fortunate enough to travel to Ireland when I was a freshman. And I was really excited when I found out that we would be doing another international tour that I could be a part of. Travel has always been one of my favorite things, and when I heard it was Costa Rica, I was a little hesitant. I didn't really know what to expect. It was so different from Europe, which is where I had primarily traveled. But I went into it with an open mindset, and I was blown away. I loved it more than I ever thought I would. I'm talking about my three favorite things. So they say pura vida all the time. Everyone you see, pura vida, pura vida. And it just represents the Costa Rican lifestyle so well. They're always smiling Costa Ricans are always smiling when they're walking down the street. They're so happy, and the country overall is so peaceful. And so that kind of leads into the University for Peace, where we were able to visit. We got to do some workshops on on conflict resolution and just overall how to have a more peaceful mindset. And this was one of my favorite parts of the whole trip. It was kind of like being in a classroom, that's like my natural habitat. So I really enjoyed that. I liked having the teacher teach us and then having interaction and responding and having questions and things like that. It was a really amazing experience. We got these cool shirts with sloths, so that was awesome. And then the other thing I really liked about the trip was also kind of going back to the classroom, was seeing science. Like, everywhere. I got to think back to my freshman biology class and when we talked about all the ecosystems and biodiversity, and that is what Costa Rica is. Everywhere you look, there's something different. There's a cloud forest over here and a rainforest over here, and here's the tropics, and everywhere there's so many different types of animals and plants and birds, and it's so beautiful. And they have such an emphasis on preserving the environment and all the habitats that are there, which is something I really appreciate. And after this trip, I have an even greater appreciation for it. I actually wrote 2 papers for my college class about that because of Costa Rica. So that has just changed who I am as a person. And finally, the music, which was the reason we went to Costa Rica in the first place. And music is such an amazing thing because it can bring people together. We met students there, and we didn't speak the same language, but we all knew music. So we were able to sing our American songs, and they were able to sing their Costa Rican songs, and we sang them together, and we just had this bond immediately. And that's a really beautiful thing. And not only that, then that kind of broke the ice, and we were able to play games and teach them some of our things, and it was a really amazing experience. I wish that I could go on another choir trip. Unfortunately, I will not, but I will always have the memories from Costa Rica.
And we showed just a few photos during the slideshow, so I'm not going to say too much. It speeds through a bunch of photos here. It's about 3 minutes long, but I think it's worth taking a look. Can I find the cursor? There it is. Work. Yes? Should. I should push play. Yeah, it's a video. Should be. Well, if we play it.
Next slide. Is that the video slide?
It was a video. Well, we're gonna skip the video. What I'll do, board members and Dr. Flores, I'll share out a folder with all these photos, and you can see all the beautiful places, and you can see the stories, some of the stories that Sloan and Jeffrey shared, and Christina, and you can see it through the photos, and even this photo in front of the ruins in Cartago. That was the original basilica that was never finished because of earthquakes and various other reasons, and that was just the start of many memories. So I was trying to find a quote or think of something that I could say about travel, and Christina alluded to it a little bit about how travel changed our lives. I first traveled internationally with the San Jose State Choraleers, and like Sloan was saying, just blown away by what I saw over there. And at that point, I was like, if I ever had opportunity to live internationally, I would. Then I had a family, and it got complicated, but we ended up doing that. And then, so ending up, when I was looking to come back from Mexico with my family, and finding a place to land, and Mr. Rob retiring, and then Gilroy Unified granting me an interview and bringing me here was just like amazing. And so I feel very fortunate to be here and work with outstanding young people like Sloan and Jeffrey and their peers. Which we got Audrey here. She went on trip, and they're just really outstanding. So I like this quote by John Hope Franklin: "We must go beyond textbooks, go out into the bypass and untrodden depths of the wilderness, and travel and explore and tell the world of the glories of our journey." It changed my life, and I hope this is the just second international tour of many in my career here at Gilroy High School, and take more young people like these guys. So thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Good job. And Jonathan, on the other side of things, we are so glad you came back from Mexico and applied for the job. You have done a great job.
Yes, you have.
I appreciate it. Thank you. We're gonna put children at home. So I'm listening.
Yes, of course.
Board
Thank you.
members, any comments or questions?
I'd like to echo, it was a life-changing trip. I thank you for letting me participate as a chaperone. It was wonderful.
I've had some really good photos of
Thank you for not including those in the slideshow. But thank you for an amazing experience for me that I Can't even imagine how it's going to change the lives of these students.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for tonight. What, you're not staying for the whole meeting?
Thanks for
Smart.
coming on the first day of school.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, now we have item 6B, draft bridging document report to the board for the new elementary school design build project. This is an informational item, and Mr. James D. Bombachi. But I see
I'll buy them
Alvaro.
some time while they get set up. Thank you, Madam President. So tonight is an important checkpoint for us in the development of the schematic design, if you will, for the new elementary school, because we're here to present you with a draft bridging document. So what exactly is it, a bridging document, more for the benefit of the public? Well, it's basically a design and construction requirements that we're going to hand over to the builder and architects that will actually bid on this project. So WLC are our architects that have helped us through this process, and it has been a process involving committee, facility subcommittee input, of course, teacher input, administrators, just a number of meetings. So here is for information only, as Vice President Piceno said, for us to have an opportunity for the board to review the draft. We've gotten a lot far into the process, so now we're ready for board feedback. I think we've presented a couple of times to you as a board, but now we're far along in the process as well. So I think the design, where we are right now with schematics, will give you a pretty good layout of what we're thinking about. And naturally, that the bidders of this project will ultimately rely on this document heavily to then fulfill our vision for the new elementary school. So I think I just bought enough time, so I think they're ready. Jenan from the WLC will start our presentation.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having us. I think Leo's actually going to start speaking this evening, and then I'll interrupt him most likely at some point.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Leo Ray Lynch with WLC Architects, and Janan Abdanar and I are going to walk through this presentation with you. Some of the board members and the superintendent have seen most of this previously, because we've had some of the board members have been part of the committee. Fortunately, Pat is not here. She's been at all those meetings that we've had. And so so for a couple of you, it'll be redundant. And we won't dwell too much on this, because I heard we have a short time frame. We've got a lot to go over, so we'll jump right into it. Beginning with the site.
Oh, can I just say?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I knew she was going to do this. But go ahead.
We have three components tonight.
yes,
We're
I'm
going to do a quick slideshow with some of the guts of what we've gone through process-wise, and where we've ended up. Then we have a quick little movie animation of a computer model, and then we were actually going to open up the computer model and look at a couple of the sort of the finer details and take some questions where we can actually see things that we're speaking about. So we'll try to sort of speed through the front part so we can get to the fun stuff.
Yes. So beginning with the project, as all of you know, the site is this triangular shape right here that runs along Santa Teresa and Club Drive with Solisano over here for the middle school. And then, of course, we have the creek and all of the natural landscaping that's over here. What's important about this is that this site forces us to look at several things relative to access and location of buildings. And I think that's one thing I want to talk about initially as we look at this. As you look at the site, there's no access, vehicular or pedestrian, from this side of the property. There is potentially access on Santa Teresa and potentially on Club, so we only have three sides that we can work off of. Santa Teresa is obviously a very busy street, an active street that is proposed to be widened beyond what it is now. And so having any access off of Santa Teresa becomes problematic at best and almost impossible in reality to do it. So therefore, you're now forced to look at Club Drive as being the primary access point for the site. So the site configuration is forcing us into looking at certain things. In terms of then where the access is on Club, that's also where your parking now needs to be. will be off of Club Drive because that's where the cars are going to come in and they have to drive closely. Where the parking is where the public facilities need to be. Your administration, your multipurpose, those elements that need to, where the public and your parents, everybody needs to access. So the site configuration forces you to look at putting those components towards the front of the site in this location. Oh, it went too far. And then the play areas here and fields behind you. So the site configuration sort of pushes you into looking at how you're going to then zone the site for where the buildings are going to go, where the parking's going to go, where the fields are going to go. And that's sort of the direction that we headed with this process. We went through many iterations to get through this. We had many discussions, and we showed several different ways that we can organize this site, but all of them pivoted around the same general format as we went through it. Then we took that same design concept and we began to refine it a little bit more and looking at what are the functions that are going to take place in those locations. Again, the parking and drop-off towards the front on Club. We also pulled some parking along Santa Teresa to act as both a buffer to the school as well as to add additional parking for the site. In general, we have roughly about 150 parking spaces altogether. The original submittal to the California Department of Education had about 125 that was submitted. So we're going to have more parking than was actually submitted to CDE, and will be adequate parking for both the staff and the public that's going to be coming here. Then we have kindergarten. One of the discussions that we had, not one of the discussions, many discussions we had around kindergarten was that kindergarten needs to be in a separate facility that was part of the campus, but it had to be separate buildings that were set apart from the campus. So that's why the kindergarten's in this location with its own direct parking access. Then the admin areas here, the multipurpose room, a central courtyard area, a classroom wing, with a classroom wing being able to view into the Uvas Creek area, as well as into the courtyard, and as well as having direct access from the parking lot. And then behind that is hardscape, and then play area that comes in behind all of that. So the site is organized because you want to have the public facilities again to the front. Those are areas where the public may come both during the day and in the evenings, but separated from the rest of the site throughout the course of the day. Now, beyond that, after we went through all of that, oh, we moved that later, didn't we? Or did I skip it?
You want the space program?
Yeah. So one of the things we're going to quickly look at are, one of the things in terms of once we finish zoning it, we had to talk about what is going into those zones. And so we had several meetings discussing the program that was going to be used on the site, what the space program was going to be, how many classrooms we were going to have, how many kindergarten classrooms, what the sizes and square footage of those spaces were going to be, special ed, all those things are located in this space program. I won't take time to go through all of the numbers here, but each one of these is broken down so you can take a look and see what has happened at each grade level, and number of classrooms in each grade, square footage of each of those classrooms, and then what the total is.
Sorry, the last line of that, it says at the bottom, TS total. That means, that's a number called teaching stations.
Okay.
And that's a fairly relevant number for, state.
For CDE
of
purposes.
State issue. Basically, that's your core academic function is 34 spaces large.
If we had to enlarge the size of the school to add student capacity at some point in the future after the school is built, is that possible based on this design?
It's always possible to add. The building is not designed as such to be extended, if that's
Right.
what, if
No,
that's what
that's
you're
not
talking
what I
about.
mean. For example, do we have somewhere to put portables if we had to?
I hate that word that you just said.
I don't like it either, but sometimes you don't have choices.
But yeah, the site itself, because it's a relatively large site, you could find space to do that. We didn't configure the buildings looking at that as a reason for locating the buildings on the site. But there is the ability to do that. You'll see when we get into the final site plan in a moment when Janan goes over that.
Also, I think from the outset, the 800 student capacity was projected into the future. So rather than look at a building plus portables, there was a a basic premise given to us that we should look at the future expansion of the school as part of the core
It's actually bigger than we'll
facility.
need initially. And
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
why
Good.
we went with the 800.
Good.
Because we were thinking long-term, that we would have more capacity than we'll need initially.
Yeah, because I believe the initial program that was done for the school was for 600 students.
right.
And then when we got involved, we were told they wanted to actually look at a school for potentially 800 students as opposed to the 6.
Because
the
if
master
we're going to
plan
go
had
to all
700.
this work, we should think long-term and have more capacity than we'll need when we open it. Hopefully, we won't have to put portables, but you never know down the road. Any of our campuses could have portables except Elliott.
Okay, again, these are just the continuation of the space programs, looking at all the different, the principal's office, speech office, everything from, supply area, copy room, all the spaces that are needed to actually have a school function. And the grand total of all of that is 85,000 square feet that we have for the total building and all of the spaces involved with it. Okay. Now we can go back to that. It's a site plan. And so now have Janan talk about the specific site plan that we ended up with, and also the actual floor plan layouts that coming behind that. And as you mentioned, we'll then show an animation of the design that we've done, and then we'll open it up so we can have some more questions as we actually move around the building with the 3D modeling that's been done for the project. Okay.
Well, one of the things I'm not going to do is spend too much time talking about parking and drop-off, but I will give you the overview. And I will note that there's an ongoing traffic study being performed. They have looked at our proposals. They're also looking at the larger contextual issues of Gilroy and the traffic patterns within Gilroy. But I think the outset of that conversation is that the amount of space that we have allocated for parking and drop-off on this site is well within state guidelines and use guidelines and circulation functionality for the site. So hopefully, no matter how those studies end up, the overall site plan will stand. But as Leo mentioned, the public access is here. There's envisioned to be some kind of entry point, possibly via a traffic circle at this corner of Grenache and Club, where drop-off will occur. We're looking at a sort of street side drop-off for the upper grades and a park and walk-in for the kindergarten. The main student entry is this large wedge here, so it's a big set of gates will open up, and then all the students can come through the gate. There's a big plaza area in front of the school where people can congregate and gather, and hopefully it won't be congested at all as 800 people are walking through the gates in the morning in 5 to 10 or 15 minutes. The kinder wing is located here immediately adjacent to the kindergarten drop-off area. We have not put any doors or any street front access because of security concerns. So what we're looking at is that parents walk in, come into the kindergarten quad courtyard area, and then walk their students to the individual classrooms that way. The main 2-story classrooms are here around this central courtyard. There's been some discussion that potentially the students could do their lining up within this courtyard space in the morning, so you could have a large central gathering spot where all the students convene before the bells ring. This building is a 2-story building with 1st through 5th grades, and at ground level there's a sort of a breezeway pass-through that's quite generous in size. One of the concerns of the site committee was making sure we had a feel for the natural access of the site. So we really wanted to connect with the views and, with your feet to the nature preserve on this side of the site. And then the second story will run across the breezeway here. You can sort of see the dotted outline of the second story up there. And you'll see that more in the model and the fly-through as well. This large structure here is a combination of multi-purpose and admin and library functions, all bundled up into one very nice corner piece building that will show off the site. It'll be visible from the roads, and it will be a bit of a landmark saying, you know, this is a Gilroy Elementary School. It is set back considerably from the road, so it's not immediately on top of them, but it will be visible. And as such, it's got a presence because it's a two-story building. The multipurpose space is two-story anyway. It's a two-story volume, no matter how you look at it. So we, in consideration of the sort of the largeness of the population of the site, one of the things that we looked at was how do we condense our spaces so that teachers aren't walking for 20 minutes to get from, you know, one side of the campus to the other. And primarily for that reason, the two-story ideas were, I think, embraced. And one of the beauties of having the admin and library as a two-story building is that when we put it up next to the multi-use building, we buy free space. So there's that higher part of the multi-use level building that we're going to have a mezzanine space. So we have more capacity for students and performance audiences and things in that building. The building is modeled after the Rucker Elementary School multipurpose building. It's almost identical in size. So I think we've all, well, with the addition of the mezzanine, but I think we've all come to conclude that that holds about 550 people seated down like this. So, you know, it's an 800 student school. With the mezzanine, we probably get an extra 100 or so up there.
This image has the name of a different architecture firm. Can you?
Oh, this is our landscape architect.
So they're working in contract?
They're our consultant, Keller
Okay.
Mitchell. They actually attended some site committee meetings with us and went through some programming discussions with the site. You know, how many tether balls are we going to have? Where exactly is the basketball going to be? Where should the ball wall go? They put this landscape plan together, and it is a draft. There are some things that will be tweaked a little when we bring the final for the bridging document. The main feature of the central courtyard is this amphitheater, and that is ostensibly the main gathering spot for the school. It's a place where easily 800 people can be accommodated for any number of purposes. And you'll see in our shading studies that it's going to have pretty good coverage in terms of not being too hot, nice amount of shade during the hotter parts of the day. And you know, we're looking at, it's not necessarily just a giant paved circle on the ground. They've proposed a turf amphitheater. And actually there's a photo. You can sort of see, I think this is in Morgan Hill, actually, this turf amphitheater. These two pictures here are outdoor classroom ideas. We thought, well, given that there's a nature conservancy right next door, what about an observation deck as a theme for the outdoor classroom? So we've got the outdoor, we'll go to the floor plan for that. And this is a picture of a kindergarten playground, and these are some paw prints embedded in the concrete. So these are some features that we've added to the site plan. This is a floor plan, the ground floor level of the classrooms, the classroom wing. And it's rotated from the site plan slightly. So you can see this arrow down here says north. The site plan was oriented so north was straight up. So everything's just a little rotated to fit on the page properly. But basically, your lower level classrooms pretty much need to be at ground level, state requirements. And so they're organized in, there was a lot of talk about corridors and the function of a good corridor and how it can add and enhance the academic situation at the school and provide space for presenting materials, space for gathering, space for sort of auxiliary functions to the classroom. So we went with that, and we tried to design a nice, what we call a double loaded corridor, meaning there's classrooms on both sides. And we have organized it so that you could have your first and second grade, you can put them wherever you want, but there's enough classrooms in each wing so that your first and second grade can be here closest to the kindergarten. These green spaces are the lab spaces, so we've got the sort of the wet lab and the dry lab, and this wet lab up here is adjacent to that outdoor classroom observation deck idea, so you could potentially have even up to 2 or 3 classes alternating inside and outside to do lab activities potentially as like an entire grade level could be doing a lab function, an indoor-outdoor lab unit together. There's a space for third grade. We've got these support special ed program here. We've got a special day down here, the lower level special day, and RSP and speech located there as well. This is sort of the core, right? The central part where we consider it's more communal because it's in the center of the building. So we've got vertical circulation, we've got elevators, bathrooms, and we've got this sort of interesting stair that can function a little bit like a, something like that. A gathering space. It's a bit larger than your normal stair for egress, but it's also just utilizing space that's already in the school to do more than just provide passage from point A to point B.
I'm sorry, am I looking at the map right, that there are no doors on the outside of the building?
There are doors at the end of the hallways, but not to each classroom
Not
from
just
the
I
outside.
was just wondering.
Yeah, so the doors are here, here, and over here.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Just as a follow-up, we had that conversation at a couple of the meetings about whether or not there should be doors outside, for the classrooms to the outdoors or either to the courtyard. And it was an undecided issue at some points. Some people wanted it, most people didn't. And so at this point, we don't show any exterior doors off the classrooms currently. But if at some reason, when you go through the design build process and go through the program, if their decision is made to do that, it's easily adaptable for that. But currently, there are none.
Breezeway, have you considered wind? What will the wind situation be like through there?
The breezeway, this
Yeah.
in between areas?
Usually, wind is generated bouncing off of solid surfaces, usually tall ones. It creates, increases the energy of the wind and creates wind tunnels. And I don't have a way of modeling the wind myself, like we do with the daylighting, but this is a very wide open expanse, so I think that's our best strategy for avoiding generating too much wind going through that space.
How wide is the?
This is about 70 feet across the back here.
Okay.
And across the front here, it's about 50 feet. So it's
Not a wind tunnel.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to mention is with the wind tunnel, you actually need a little more depth. This
Right,
direction of
this way.
wall,
Yeah.
that direction to actually create that suction through there. And we only have it's just 2 classrooms in the hallway wide in terms of what
Yeah.
we have there. So that doesn't mean you're not going to get wind blowing through there. Obviously you will, but I don't think it'll create that same kind of wind tunnel effect.
I don't think it's going to generate accelerated winds through the breezeway. This is the only part right here, is the only part of the breezeway that's actually faced by 2 walls. The rest is open to the outside space. Progressing upstairs, and at an earlier version, we did have an open air hallway out here for the second level. We've gone ahead and enclosed that at this point, so it's an enclosed upstairs hallway for a couple of reasons. There were some concerns about the roof lines here and the solar panels being an inviting place for students to have mischief. There's also there's some technical issues about waterproofing and stepping the structure and doing the seismic joint, and that are alleviated and made more efficient and less costly by enclosing the corridor. So I think for those reasons, we went ahead and did enclose it. But we're looking at 4th grade and 5th grade. We have more staff support area. There's staff support areas on both floors, but grade level storage, restrooms, lactation room, small workspace. Copy if they have a copy, an extra copier, they can put it there. Bathrooms for students, and we also have access for all the mechanical equipment from this level directly. So we're trying to reserve all of our roofs for the solar application because of the net zero energy potential for the school. So we've created these mechanical equipment access areas on the ends here. There's a patio overlook overlooking the courtyard. That's the upstairs floor breakout space idea, which is, it's about 2 classrooms large. And it should be a good space for outdoor activity or art projects on a nice day, or even just, you know, if you want to get your kids out of the room for a bit and do your curriculum there.
I just want to amplify a little bit the staff work areas in this building as opposed to being in the admin building. They do have a staff room, admin building too, a workroom. But there was, we had teachers and former teachers and principals on the committee, and there was concern about having to always go back across to the administration to make copies, to do things that you need to do, in keeping the workflow going in the school. And so they made a point of having on both floors, having staff workrooms on both floors in the classroom building, and not have everything in the admin building.
And we do understand the constraints that most schools don't have 6 copiers for their staff. So we do have the primary workroom space in the admin building, but there is this auxiliary space too. This is the kindergarten wing. 6 kindergartens grouped in 2s, in pairs, with a shared teacher workroom and prep room area. And each kindergarten has its own bathroom. And those are just state requirements for kindergartens. There's a little staff support area in this building as well, and a janitor's room and stuff like that. Sorry, we're just waiting for it to catch up. These are just some examples, and we brought many different sort of motivational images to our meetings with the design committees. And for you tonight, what we've brought are the ones that people seem to gravitate towards the most. So we don't want to put a lot of features in the building that wouldn't get used or embraced by your teachers. So one of the things that we heard from them over and over again was how the hallways could be used to support what they're doing in the classroom. And so these are some examples of hallways that have been used to do just that. And I think the ones that really stood out for our design committee were the ones that allowed gathering spaces, like this little indoor sort of stage, tiny little platform, this kind of learning environment here. And so that's what we have incorporated into the design. You'll notice in the space program, if you do look at it with scrutiny, that there are 5 breakout spaces at 1,500 square feet allocated. We haven't actually taken that literally, and we've gone ahead and done the outdoor patio, the outdoor classroom, courtyard space, and that indoor seating area with the stair that's sort of modeled after this concept, mostly because they seemed to be the ones that would get used and be practical for the Gilroy staff. This is the ground floor of the administration and the multipurpose building. We've got the indoor-outdoor stage, the kitchen. We've got this core here. This is an open-air breezeway again. We've got a core of bathrooms and functions that have a relationship of simultaneity between each other. So, for example, you've got your Power School after-school program that needs to be open when the administration is closed. So you have the ability to close down the administration, but open Power School and open the multi-use room. They will all have access to entry to the site. They will all have access to the courtyard. They will all have access to bathrooms, but you don't have to open up the rest of the buildings to do that. Similarly, we have the parent room, which can be opened up if there's an evening activity for migrant education or adult continuing education or the parent education workshops that they do. So we wanted the building to be able to have whatever pieces need to be open at the same time be able to be open without having to open up the whole school. So that's the premise for how this works. And the library, similarly, which is on the second floor, can be gained access to from this stair here without even having to open up any of the rest of the building. You could just go to the library and not have access to the rest of the school. Or you could go to the library in the multipurpose room. Or if you have voting day, you can go to the multipurpose room without going anywhere near the school, so that the students are in class and the voters are voting and nobody has to run into one another. So we were looking at the nuance of those relationships quite carefully when we did this building. And upstairs, we have the library and the staff lounge, workroom, small kitchenette, some bathrooms, and the mezzanine access here. The staff lounge was conceived of as a sort of a haven for teachers, where they could go to relax a little bit and have a small break from their day. So for that reason, it's sort of privately located upstairs in a quiet part of the campus, and it has this little patio deck area that it overlooks. So it's really, it's kind of its own little place. But they could, if they have to go, let's say they go to their class in the morning, pick up their students, blah, 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 they get their break. They walk over to the admin, they pick up their mail downstairs here, they walk up the stairs, they go have their lunch, they make their copies while their lunch is happening. It all works seamlessly for the sort of the daily movements of the staff at the school. Yeah, this is just a quick snapshot of our process, and everything colored in has been done, and everything in dashed has not been done, and we're basically down here doing our second to last presentation to the school board for this process. And this is the bridging, which Alvaro talked about already, but this is, we're up here, we're this first little bar that is part of a larger whole. So you guys are gonna be bidding this project out to your design build team, and we're providing a component of that package that goes out to them to be proposed on. And that component will have this design, and it will have it described with plans, model images, descriptive narratives, and equipment specifications, and a variety of technical information that will give those teams a very specific idea of what this school is that you're trying to build, so that they don't just sort of come up with all their own ideas, although they will have a chance to come up with plenty of their own thoughts.
So I think with that, we'll just, we'll go to the next step, which is the animation. Didn't want to spend, I think, if you have questions about the rest of this, I'm sure Jim can answer this, but we'll be putting together a basis of design, which is what it's called, which is besides the drawings, we'll actually have a document that actually explains what the scope of the project is going to be and what the components are. We have mechanical, electrical, we have other consultants on our team who are going to be putting basis of design elements in that the design build team will utilize to come up with their vision of what we're providing for you right now. And knowing that it's going to be a little different, they're going to tweak what we're doing because each team will have their own architect. It'll be contractor teams that you'll be hiring that will have their own architect and consultants with them. And hopefully, I guess it's later on the agenda, we'll be working with you through that process as that goes through, okay? And so now what we want to do is kind of, is that the right one? Yeah. It's just kind of walk you through the look of the building that we're looking at right now. That one's moving, that one didn't. So if you can just kind of follow through with it.
Sorry, they're a little off sync with the computer, but a little video zooming around. On the left is the administration multipurpose.
Mm-hmm.
On the right here is the kindergarten. You can see that large main entry wedge shape.
That's the main entrance.
Is that roof all solar
Yes.
panels?
The dark area is solar, and the lighter area is the roof, on the roof element. And again, these are conceptual, we haven't designed this fully, but.
These are the north faces of the classroom wing.
Is
With
that side?
that triangular, that's that atrium in the middle with that forum seating concept. I'm sorry, it skipped ahead. We're having a
You're taxing
delay.
the computer too much.
These are some views from inside the courtyard,
Is it-
looking back at the classroom.
And this is that opening that
It's
that
that
you're asking
breezeway.
about, that little breezeway?
That atrium is enclosed, right?
Yes, it's enclosed,
And this is looking at it from the back?
which are the north. The north is back in that case.
This is
Okay.
that's the admin building
Wow,
and multipurpose?
that's a heck of a deck.
Teachers may come there on the weekends.
This is the kindergartens. What we're gonna do now,
It's making me dizzy.
Oh, no, careful. We have the model itself that we can actually look at.
Good, I want to see that deck again.
What was that?
I said, good, I want to see that deck again.
Right, so just, you know, this was that corner view. This is that big street facade view.
Like every campus.
And Club.
Right.
Here's Club right here, there's Santa Teresa here.
Yeah.
So this is the corner, the
This one's
parking
great because
as the
it has
buffer
one
along
main
here,
entrance
and then this is the admin multipurpose building, that's right there.
You showed
Okay.
them the main entrance, we were sitting over
Sure.
there
Yeah,
talking
can
about
pivot around to the entrance.
there.
And then as you move around to the main entrance here, with the admin on this side, so you enter, and one of the things with the admin, you enter through here, and then during the day, there is it's not shown here, there's a gate that goes across, so that you would have to go through the admin lobby, check in, and then go into the campus from there. So there would be no direct access through once school starts. Obviously, it'll be wide open in the beginning of the mornings as all the students are coming in. Everybody's coming in. Once school starts, you close those gates and they have to go through the lobby to access the site.
And the lobby is right where the mouse is?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, right
There are
here.
two- I've shown two doors, one
Right.
here and one just right here, so sort of right on the corner of the entry plaza.
And then there's the other door to exit is back here.
One of the things that I did do that's different from the first site plan I showed was I pulled back the kindergarten drop-off area to create more of a gathering space right in front of the main entry. So we've kept the longer overall drop-off along Club, but pulled back the kindergarten park and drop, so that when you exit your car, you are standing at the entry and not kind of off to the side.
Did you extend the overhang?
Which one? They're all quite extended. Oh, yes, we did. So that view is, let's try one of these. Actually, I can just zoom around it manually here, but this,
Because there was talk when the kids are out there waiting in the hot sun.
oh, yes. So there's this whole overhang underneath the, there's a couple. There's one, a big one here underneath, over the multipurpose.
Multipurpose.
There's a big one here.
That's outside correctly. That's out in front of the school.
And you can see, in fact, if I turn on, we can look at the shadows in the afternoon.
And there's some here
Like,
too.
But you can see there's overhangs here by the kinder and right by the main admin as well. So shading has been very carefully constructed as part of our design here.
We're talking about pickup?
Yes, that's what he's referencing, yeah. From the outside, so kids are gathering out here, so they can get underneath this canopy,
I don't know what that is.
or they can
What's-
picked up on this side over here.
What's that box on the kindergarten wing, on the top?
That is the roof of the support space.
The roof of the support space.
Yeah. I was
That one
thinking,
has one, nothing else has.
you know, it doesn't maybe need to be quite so tall.
Yeah, that's pretty tall.
But,
But from street view, it doesn't look terrible.
yeah, it just sort of, you know, we want to have a little balance here between, for our entry. It's a sort of a landmark saying,
Yes.
you want people to know where the entry is. You don't want them to have to look for a sign or turn their heads. I mean, when anybody coming onto the site should know exactly where they have to go intuitively, and this kind of architectural feature gives them that sense, I'd say. It's also convenient because we do need to have some rooftop equipment here and there, so it's a nice convenient little spot for us to put some few rooftop mounted things and hide them. You need to have a pretty tall, you need a 6 to 8 foot high wall above your roof, so you really don't see that stuff up there.
The committee hasn't seen this yet, right? Because we're just seeing it for the first time.
Correct.
So we'll be showing this to them.
Yeah, we'll need to do that.
Yeah,
Yes, they've been out all summer, so.
yes.
And you can see how this amphitheater works in with the rest of the courtyard over here, as you come across. And again, these are just imagery to give you an idea of how the stage, just at the back, back up to that one there. This is the back of the stage at the multipurpose room that opens up to the outside, up to that main center court. So, and then you have the amphitheater here here, so you can have activities outside, plays or music or whatever is going on, can happen there. And this is a large area here. We show some planter walls and some landscape areas, but that's something that, again, will get configured during the final design phase as to how they think they might actually utilize that area. They may want it to be more open, or they may want to have more landscaping in there. So those are things that we're going to leave to the final design team to kind of work out as we go through it. But we've envisioned here how it could be initially.
One of the main features of the school that you'll notice are the big roofs. And they weren't just flights of fancy, because what we tried to do was take very seriously the climate issues that you have in Gilroy. And just to take as an example, I think if we take one of the classroom scenes here, the south and west walls, which will be the hottest classrooms at your school. So on the left where the hand is, that's the south wall, and on the right, that's the west facing wall. And if we look at how those roofs are providing protection for those facades, all of a sudden you can see how functional they are. So let's say we go to September at 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the afternoon. You can see there's shade on all those windows, and that does a couple of things for you. It means that instead of running your air conditioning 35 days a year, you're going to run it 10. And teachers will be a lot more comfortable with opening windows and having fresh air rather than just having piped-in air.
And what you just saw, just to explain to you a little bit, is this program allows you to, you heard her say September, that you can actually select a date and time of year based on where your longitude and latitude is, and you can see where your sun angles are going to be and where your shadows will fall. And so what you can do at that point is take your roof lines or shade, whatever kind of shade element and move those to get the maximum amount of shade that you want to receive. So they may extend out or come back in and vary. So it allows you to do that. These programs allow you to look at those kinds of elements. And so that's what you said. Some of these roofs look like they're flying off into outer space, but they're there for a reason. But some decisions could be made later on that, well, maybe we don't need that much roof. Maybe we can cut it back. But that's the reason why we have them configured this way at this point in time.
If you lose the roofs, which you could, like from a value engineering standpoint, but you also lose that value that they're providing to the school, which is, it's maybe more of a capital input, but a longer term buyback in that sense from a purely financial look. And everything about this campus was designed with those ideas in mind. The building is oriented so that 75% of the classroom space north and east. That the south faces are the lower ones that are shaded. The kindergarten is oriented also similarly for that purpose. All these roofs are large size so that we'll get enough solar panel space so that you don't have to come back and add little structures here, there, and everywhere. But you can have your net zero building, which will eventually, it's coming down the pipe as a requirement from the state, 2030 for 50% of your buildings are going to be required to be net zero energy. So,
Start now.
Yeah, it's not, Jim asked us to look at this from the day one, so.
How about water usage? Is this water-wise, or is there anything we can do?
At this scope that we're doing, we're not into that level of detail. But that's certainly something that is going to be a major consideration because, you can't move water off your site. You've got to have retention basins. You have to have all that stuff going on the site. So that's something that will be looked at very closely as you go through your design-build process with your design-build team.
The recycled water line goes pretty close through here.
Yeah, you have one. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have actually identified the bioretention areas on the site, and this
Proposed, yeah.
previously undetermined north edge along the fence line here between the fire lane and the building is fantastic for bioretention because everybody's been concerned about security on that side of the building because it's not visible you know, except to the homeless encampment on the other side of the creek. So I think putting the bioretention there where it wants to be is actually perfect. This area here that edges the playground,
Also use that.
right here, that's a large bio collection for stormwater runoff, and we have green edges at the edges of the parking lots as well. We're planning, you know, we have the opportunity to use the reclaimed water for a lot of components. Jim has been pushing for this turf field because it's a little less ecologically intensive. It takes less water, it takes less chemicals, it's a simpler ecological component to maintain.
And by turf, you mean?
Artificial turf.
Artificial, okay.
And then the plantings then, instead of being grass, will be drought tolerant or drought resistant complementary plantings for the area.
Thank you.
And acoustics, have we looked at acoustics?
We have, what we've done at this level is that we've retained an acoustical consultant. They're actually very good. They've written all the criteria for the California High Performing Schools acoustics, and they have written a document that describes what the acoustical performance in not every single room in the school, but all the occupied rooms should be. And since we ourselves are not detailing the building, it will be up to the design build team to detail it correctly, but we can help provide oversight to make sure that they're meeting those goals.
Yeah, we're establishing, as the term you'll probably hear over and over again, we're establishing a basis of design. So we'll set the design criteria by which they need to meet to get the acoustic level that's appropriate.
I will say one of the major decisions about the buildings is based on acoustics. The two-story buildings, when you look at the structure
Yeah, the
of
floor.
how the building's held together, is it steel, is it concrete, or is it wood? We had the option to go with a wood structure. But if you go with a wood structure, which is the cheapest, you can't really have a concrete floor for the second floor. And when you don't have a concrete floor for the second floor, you get sound vibration that travels between the classrooms at the first and second floor. So for that reason, we have gone with the steel brace frame structural system at this juncture, which is a very efficient structural design and still cost-effective within the spectrum of structural options, while also meeting your performance needs for the school, because what you really don't want is kids upstairs doing an activity and then the downstairs classroom is participating in that unwillingly. So that has been taken into account at the macro level.
I noticed you have a couple areas that are outdoors at the second story level, and that appears to be kind of unusual for an elementary school, isn't it?
No, actually.
Not
Okay.
the ones that I've worked on.
I've never seen
Actually
it
not.
before.
It may be a little unusual for what you have here, perhaps. But no, it's, we have a lot of questions. We actually fielded several questions about that for the design committee. It's not unusual. It's pretty typical, actually, to have those when you have a railings. One of the things that we talked about was perhaps having the railing a little bit higher than we might normally have the rails, just for, belt and suspenders kind of thing. But we have often put in railings on the second level at elementary schools, and we've never had a problem. I don't know if you ever heard of a kid going over a rail at an elementary school. It's just something
We have
that.
a Los Animas in our two-story building, and we haven't had any issues.
Yeah, it's something that doesn't happen. It's something that puts people off typically when they first see it, for the same reasons that you're asking the question, being concerned. But we've never had an issue with that.
Yeah, in Los Animas, they're adjacent to a walkway. These are like dedicated, large areas.
So, but they're also controlled spaces now.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons we enclose the corridor. You have to go through a door to get there, and I'd say it's more, rather than a casual going outside experience now, you sort of, a teacher's gonna take them outside. They're not just gonna go by themselves while they're going to the bathroom or something. So it's a lot more controlled. It's a more controlled area than, it's as much controlled as it could be at this point.
No, we allocated 45 minutes total for this. That had included board questions,
Questions.
so I don't know if we want to.
We're almost there.
I think we've got
Yeah,
about
we're open for questions at this point,
3 minutes.
yes.
Yeah.
You
Board
know, we
members
can
have
walk
any
through, if you have questions specific to the building, we can walk through and look at those locations you have questions about.
Yep.
I think someone wanted to have another look at the deck.
Yeah, I
by-
saw
by
them.
the
I
staff.
got a good look at them, thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, so we're open to any questions you may have about it or comments.
Any questions? Hyman?
Typical overhang for the courtyard area. The typical overhang for the courtyard is about how much?
Off the classrooms.
Yes, off the
classroom building
classrooms.
is 12 feet
About-
on the south and west, and 2 feet on the north and east
Ooh,
faces.
what happened there?
Sorry, I got
Drove into the building.
embedded. in the
We're
building.
we're inside the building, inside a wall, actually.
I actually did build the insides, so we could look at some of them a little bit, but I don't know that we need to. But yeah, so this overhang here, those are 12 feet. I started off with 8 feet. 8 feet is nice. The west building will have afternoon sun at around 3 o'clock with 8 feet. So we increased it to 12. Once again, it's something that could be discussed, you know, as you move forward with getting prices and everything.
Did you go to the NPR stage so I can see what the mezzanine looks like?
Inside?
Yeah.
I can. I actually haven't built the whole inside of
Come
the
on.
building, but we can see the mezzanine. Let me just take off the roofs. And so the stage isn't built out. I can turn on the line work so you can see where it goes, though. So,
But, let me use my little pointer here.
so this is the stage here, and,
So you're
Oh,
looking at
okay.
the stage element here,
right,
and that's this is actually the stage area.
right. So
This is actually the stage area,
these little
this is the
stems here
These
are where the
stairs.
curtain is. Can you point to the curtain line? No, back. The second, between
Oh.
the second, I think, yeah?
Right. Which one is it? Because that's the back wall.
Yeah, so this
there.
here is the curtain
Okay,
line.
okay.
Oh, those little
And
stems.
this is that
yeah.
wall, the big open door that leads you
To
to
the
the outside
outside.
part of the stage. This is the green room. We have a big AV storage and prop storage space. This is your wheelchair lift. The curtain is here, and this here is the mezzanine space with its rail. And what we talked about.
It looks
was-
foreshortened right there because of the angle that you're looking at it.
Yeah, I can zoom it up a little, but it's several thousand square feet. In fact, I reduced it because when I first started, it was like 3,500 square feet or something. It seemed ridiculous. And what we've done is we have one stair here, this outside stair, there's a door. There's a door here leading you to, sorry, my screen and your screens don't look the same. Okay, there's a door here from the top of this stair, direct to the outside, and then there's a second stair here that brings you down inside the multipurpose itself. So there's 2 egresses, one interior, one internal circulation, and one external circulation. So this.
You get a good look at the deck off of this staff room there.
That's where the other stair is.
Okay.
And then this here is the library space, and there are windows from the library overlooking the multi-purpose room as well. Those show up in the floor plans at this point, but not yet the model. Somebody did ask us to do an internal layout of the library, and I could, in your packet, if you look at the floor plan, you'll see a whole layout for the library in there.
Any other questions?
So that big deck area, that would just be the roof.
Yeah. it's
You're
just those-
basically taking advantage of that space.
Right,
Oh.
exactly.
Could you demonstrate the kind of the flow of drop-off and pickup?
Sure.
It works better with the roof off, actually, yeah.
Shall I take the roof off again?
You can see it easier.
Okay. And let me put the plans on so we can see the plans. Would have been better if I had done it in the, in the site plan, but I closed it because I was having trouble with the interface, but, okay. So this is Club and Grenache. And as people come to the end of Club, there's a roundabout proposed currently. It could be a signalized left-right turn, but at the moment, there's a desire for a roundabout for efficiency. You come in through the roundabout, and there's a 2-lane drop-off and drive-by right here. And it's about 500 feet long. They're separated from the road with a barrier, and the 2 lanes themselves are separated one from the other. So the drop-off, you're not dropping off in the drive-by lane. And there's a sidewalk, a 10-foot wide sidewalk alongside that has a fence line separating it from the kindergarten parking lot. CDE is adamant that students do not cross traffic once they're dropped off. So they need to be dropped off on the sidewalk and go in. There can be no going back and forth. So they come around, drop off, come by, and they can either, I guess they can either make a right or a left out there. The kindergarten parents will come through the roundabout into this U-shaped sequence. And there's angle parking, and I'm not sure why the lines didn't show up, I apologize, but there's angle parking along here, turnaround angle parking here. Because I shortened this a little, this is now about 60 some odd spaces in this lot, and then this lot I made a little bigger, so it's still the 150, they're just not 75 and 75. So pedestrian access, well, let's just do the last version of drop-off. There's bus. Bus drop-off comes through here. It's separated by a curb. There's 150-foot required linear footage for the buses to drop off. They drop off here. It's an assisted drop-off, so you have somebody come from the school to assist those kids in. So they come out, and they would either walk them back through here or through here or this way.
Do you have to go through the roundabout to get in that parking lot?
No, this parking lot has direct access and isolated access from Club, so they're not connected. They're 2 separate parking lots with 2 separate parking circulations. So this parking lot you drive in, around, and back out.
So you can drive down Club, make a left-hand turn directly into that parking lot?
Yes. In my initial thoughts, that was going to be staff parking and bus drop-off and deliveries. So you also have a delivery zone here with access to the kitchen, or your transformers or whatever are there.
The lawyers ask is it looks like the median
So
is directly
through here.
across from
Through here.
the entry, which would make it difficult.
That existing median, show the line up there.
This median?
Further up. Back.
Drive around it. I'm wondering.
Well, that meeting's fully undefined yet, quite frankly.
Oh, it's built.
But that's something that's easily, because we're going to have to adapt anyway for the new curb cuts. Have to be put in, so we've got to go through a public works process with the city to get the curb cuts approved and any changes we may need to do to Club in order to accommodate that.
Yeah, I think
So-
we have to view this as very preliminary because we haven't.
Oh, this is
we
totally
haven't
preliminary.
Discussed this with the city.
Yeah.
The importance of this is, I believe, that this very large zone is allocated for parking and drop-off so that you have access directly to kindergarten, admin, multipurpose, all from parking lots. And you have enough space. So whether you change it, you have drop-off go like this, or whatever. There should be enough space to accommodate a variety of solutions here. And obviously our cues on those come primarily from the traffic report and those experts.
Well, I always think of Los Animas doesn't have that many parking spaces or, that much space. So, I don't want us to get too hung up on this
No.
particular drawing because we'll go through numerous
It will change.
drawings before we get to the final.
And there's going to be back and forth with the city.
Right.
About
Right?
most of things. But I will point out that this loop here, that's the emergency access loop. So that's the fire truck. We have a full around
Right, and
campus.
that can only be that because we had originally asked and CDE said no, have road around the school, for instance, and they would not let us do that.
Oh, no, they don't want traffic moving around the
Right,
campus.
right.
Yeah, that would be only for emergency vehicle,
Right.
yeah.
So pedestrian and bike access is pretty good with this scheme. If you're coming from the trail, which I think would be maybe probably the largest one, this trail has to shift and go in here, but this is not a car area. This is just emergency vehicles. The cars come in here, so they come right in to the front.
On a 10-foot wide sidewalk.
This one is more than 10. This
Oh,
one.
good,
Yeah. This one is 10.
That one, that narrow one you see in the front is 10.
good.
This one here,
Is it-
the pinch point is 10, but the rest of it is.
The rest of it, I think we're talking, was about 20 or
Great.
so feet.
Bike parking?
Bike parking is here. Yeah. Also, given that we think most of the bikes will come from this path. And then obviously, if you're coming from down here, there's a sidewalk, and then you do have to cross this driveway, but you're right into the campus at that point, and then.
Couldn't you just pick up the sidewalk on the outside of that parking lot? Is that
Here? Yeah.
there and go up?
Well, you have to cross the driveway
Cross the
anyway.
driveway. Oh, no, there's gates. This will be fenced. This will be fenced off. So the fencing will be, the building line is a perimeter here, and then there'll be a fence here,
Right.
and then a fence here.
But I can go around that
Fence there.
on my bike if we didn't want anyone crossing that driveway, exists
Oh,
around.
could you walk like this?
Right.
Yeah, sure. I guess you could. These are the dumpsters and okay, they may not be the dumpsters exactly like that, but I think this zone is a really good zone. Sure.
That's where we plan to put those things, because of the kitchen, adjacency to the kitchen, bringing all the food out the dumpsters, and the service area for bringing things in the mornings.
Right,
Yeah.
but
Sometimes you have to walk within 5 feet of a dumpster in life.
We usually build this, most people build a structure for
Right, but again, I also agree with James in that instead of crossing the driveway, to walk within the perimeter and have a walk, in other words, to create the same priority for walkers as we are for cars. It seems like we want to, in fact, even a greater priority for walkers if we can do that. And
It's a good point. So we will, I think we'll have a drawing that does show those paths of travel, and we'll include them.
We need to move on, I think.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
So we'll be back in
Thank
2
you.
weeks, I guess, with
Wonderful.
our final.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good discussion, good information. Okay, next we have approved the 2018-19 budget development calendar, which is an action item, and that's Assistant Superintendent Alvaro Mesa.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. It is,
Yes, she is.
for the record, yes, we do have Pat Midgard absent. We haven't closed our books quite yet for the 16-17 year, and you are looking at it correctly. We are looking at to approve 18-19 budget development calendar, because it's really critical for us to start the budget development process early for next year, as we have to relook at our budget priorities, as well as, potential budgetary reductions to make any of those one priorities elevate to make sure that we fund them, given our constraints. And of course, our priorities conversations on the budget will outline the same process as the LCAP. They'll be linked at the hip together, so that we're looking at budget priorities at the same time that we're looking at the LCAP, and that the budget surveys and the timelines, everything's going to jive and has to for us in terms of starting early. So the calendar, of course, is subject to change, but it is included in your packet, and it does allow for a budget survey. So I've already started a early draft of the survey, which will, of course, will be in both English and Spanish, probably in a Google form of, so to speak, but also available in hard copy for those that are more willing to fill out a hard copy paper and drop it off in our office. So the bottom line is we need to start early in developing the 18-19 budget and having priority conversations both with staff and stakeholders, but also a couple of them here at our board level too. You know that the timelines that matter in terms of staffing are all running up against prior to March, so that we have a full latitude of making options and decisions based on what this process will ultimately outline for us.
Questions? Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I will make such a motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
One
Pat's not here.
Monthly district cash flow update, information item. Kimberly Mason, Director of Fiscal Services, thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Flores and Board. So this is our first monthly cash flow update for the new fiscal year, 17-18. And so our beginning balance for July, we're at that number a little over 24 million. And our cash revenue that came in for the month of July is a little over 2.5. Our expenditures are a little over 2.3. And then we did go out for a TRAN this year, and our TRAN is $6,795,000, and we'll pay back 50% of it in January, and we pay off the balance in April. And so the ending cash balance for July with the trans is a little over 29.7 million, and an ending cash balance without the trans would be a little over 22.9 million. And our payroll for July is fairly minimal there. It's a total of 1.829318, which is 78% of the total expenditures. And then this is just another way of looking at your cash flow for the month. Any questions?
Again, this is forward-looking? This is projecting, or is this backward-looking?
Yes, and so, how do you go back? Do you just, thank you. You can tell I'm not tech savvy. So I was going to actually mention, due to the fact that we're taking our teachers from a 10-month to 11-month payroll, it's going to look a little different going out. You know, these are all projections for the entire year. So it looks a little different this year. Usually you see September being your largest and then going forward, but we're actually going to, I did my best estimate with what our revenue is and what our expenditures are for the year, and project it out evenly for starting in August instead of actually starting in September.
Other
Thank you.
questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is board policy revisions, first reading.
And I wanted to say just a few words about this. I think you recall that we pay for this service from CSBA to provide us quarterly, actually I think it's going to be 5 times this year, updated board policies, and they have a team of people, including attorneys, that review the policies and make recommendations to the board. Long story short, we got behind this year for a lot of different reasons. And so what we would like to do is get caught up. In fact, we have the next set. We have July's already. So it would be really nice if we could get caught up on these. That's why we sent you 3 sets of board policy, 4 sets of board policy revisions. And the goal here is to get caught up, and then from now on, as we receive them, bring them to you. And Pat and Linda were agreeable to, instead of them reviewing them separately, which would have, slightly delayed the process, that we would just bring them all to you. So what we'd like to hear tonight is any comments, questions, concerns you have. This is a first reading, and then next time we'll bring them back for approval.
Questions, comments? Trustee Good.
So I'm looking at Board Policy 2121B, Superintendent's Contract. Paragraph 10. As written, it's not clear if we would be barred for terminating for cause without giving the 45-day notice. So I have a potential problem with that. We should probably look at that.
So we should have our legal counsel look at it. 'cause
Yeah.
It should be consistent with
Right.
the contract.
Exactly.
Contract definitely does that.
Right.
So, okay. Gina, you're keeping notes, right? Good.
That's the only thing I had.
Okay.
Trustee
Um,
Pace?
On the graduation requirements, it says something about level 2 being able to waive in the foreign language. I asked about this, and I don't know that I fully understood the answer. Could you, which is in the December packet and 6146.
Right, so in that there is a misprint, it should simply say advanced coursework, not advanced placement coursework. So I think that it's just kind of my computer automatically, when it sees advanced, puts placement on there, it's used to advanced placement. So
So
what that waiver is, level 2 is considered advanced coursework for world language, which is the requirement for A through G acceptance. So what this does is it follows the A through G guidelines, which we are an A through G district. So for example, a student who is in our dual immersion program, who comes into our high school program already at a level 4, they don't have to take both a level 4 and another class to meet a 2-year requirement. They take the level 4, that is equivalent. So they are meeting the coursework requirement and the extra 10 credits, because our graduation requirements follow A through G, which is 2 years of a world language, right? But if they start in a level 2 or higher course, then they have met that requirement. The additional 10 units would be picked up in elective coursework.
So a freshman in French 1, French 2, or Spanish 2 has met the
Have met
obligation.
the requirement,
Okay, so
correct.
our requirement is to complete level 2.
Correct.
That's, okay.
Yes, does that make sense?
Yes. All right, and could you talk about makeup work? I don't remember where that was, but it was after here.
Okay, I may have to borrow that one.
6154.
Alvaro, would you mind if I borrowed it? Do you have yours?
Okay.
A, B, or C?
Right. Okay, so what this is about, so there's two different issues. There is one policy where we talk about grades, which is a separate policy, how we grade students and when grades are acceptable. When you're looking at makeup work, what the law says is that we must provide access to the curriculum. So regardless of whether an absence is excused or unexcused, it's required by law that the students have access to that material. So our teachers must provide that work. Regardless of the reason for the absence, they must provide that work. Now, whether a teacher accepts that for grade is a different issue.
There's the sentence, students shall receive full credit for work satisfactorily completed within a reasonable period of time. That contradicts what you just said.
But that then goes to the grading policy. So, and if you want, I can work on this language. Again, this is the CSBA model, but we can work on this language because what the law states is in board policy under grading, which is a separate board policy, if it clarifies, which ours does, about absences, then it is allowable. So we can change this language to match that a little bit better. But it is very confusing because there are really two different laws, one about access and then one about grading.
And the confusion, if I can jump in here, is what is stricken from that is the words because of an excused absence.
That's
Right,
the change
and-
that word
And that's,
implemented.
so once that
Right.
is stricken, then that last sentence looks like for any absence,
So I can work on that language to clarify, but the intent of this is about that access to the curriculum. So in the past, in fact, teachers could say, we're not giving you this work
Right.
because you were not here. They cannot do that. They must provide access to that work.
But they don't have to grade it.
But they
if it's
don't
an
have to grade
excuse.
it, right. So
Well-
I can work on this language a little bit more to clarify that.
The previous, right before makeup work, teachers shall review all completed homework and provide timely feedback, so they had to do something with it.
Right, but feedback and grades are two different issues.
Right,
Okay.
credit.
And credit,
So
right.
that last sentence on this page,
I
you're
can,
saying is
I'll
wrong.
work on it, yeah. Right, well, in terms of completing the homework, in terms of giving feedback, that's all correct. Grading is a separate issue. So I can work on this more to try to clarify that grading issue.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions or comments?
There was one on the extracurricular eligibility. It seems like our no Fs policy belongs there, because it's listing a bunch of things, and no Fs. So it's 6145, which is later.
Right, and in my response to that, our administrative regulations are very specific and very clear. I strongly recommend that we keep them in those administrative regulations and not move them to board policy, because they are very, very specific.
So then, are there things in here already that should be stricken, like maintain a 2.0 GPA? Why is that here and not in the other place?
Because that's a state guideline for playing in sports, basically, in the extracurricular.
Extracurriculars, not
Right, but
sports.
our ARs go into very explicit detail about what our students need to do to participate in extracurricular. So it's already there, it's already approved by the board, but it's in the ARs and not in the board policy. And the intention of ARs are really to set those very specific guidelines where the board policy is more the overview.
So then it's weird to me that 1 and 2 are here about the eligibility at all, then, in this board policy.
Well, we can look at it. Let's take a look at it
I
again.
can look at it. Mhm.
I agree. It makes sense that we're talking about the same
together.
subject. It should all be in the same place.
Yeah.
Okay, we can review that one as well, that's fine.
That's all I had, thank you.
Well, I have a lot. Well, and
Should I
first of
stay
all-
up here? Are they all mine?
No.
Okay.
No. This is the first group that I have seen so many, the following optional paragraph. I don't remember seeing that many in the past.
We receive those. We always see those. Yeah.
This seems to be riddled with them. And
We-
so
yeah,
if
we
it's an
have.
optional, then are we to assume that Cabinet has opted in? Okay,
Every one of us read our section, and if it's there, it's because we want it to be there.
okay, so I am looking at Board Policy 5141.21C. And administering medication and monitoring health conditions. This one makes me nervous, gives me hives. The board authorizes the superintendent or designee to make available naloxone hydrochloride or another opioid antagonist for emergency medical aid to any person suffering or reasonably believed to be suffering from an opioid overdose. Are we really doing that?
Well,
Or suggesting that
this
we do that?
section was reviewed by Anna, so I'll have to
Authorized to make
ask her.
available. That's not
We're
completely
not doing
wrong.
it.
It's an optional paragraph.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
So when I looked at that, I wanted to strike it out.
I don't believe that's an it's not a choose
It
one.
says, the note, the following optional paragraph is for use by districts that, at its discretion, chooses to make emergency naloxone. So
Okay.
are we
So
choosing
right
that?
now, we're just gonna listen to comments.
Okay.
And then we'll talk in cabinet.
note.
And then we'll get back to you after we talk in cabinet on Monday.
Thank you.
I'd rather not respond on that one until we've had a chance to talk. And we might want to talk to the nurses.
For future board agendas, especially since we're getting like an inch thick of these, Can these be paginated, so when
I
a board
know.
member's
This
talk,
is
because it's
really
hard.
it's
Yeah, this is
impossible
hard.
to find
This
what
is
the other
hard.
board member's
I
talking
agree.
about with
We're
that
in
page.
December of 16.
We're in the
Yeah.
December 16th packet, but you're absolutely right. It's hard to find them.
Linda, on that one, I would say that it authorizes that we could take this option. It's not requiring any option.
No, it's not requiring, it's our choice.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, are we really choosing that? And they're gonna talk about it.
Are we choosing to have the choice? This is not making any choices. This is allowing the choice to be made in the future.
I'd like to talk about
Yeah,
that
they're gonna
after we've
talk about
talked
it.
to the nurses
Yeah.
on this one, at least.
I think that's a good way to go. Board training, I don't know,
Which one is
a
that?
third of the way through.
Heather, what month is that?
9240B, BB, 9240B.
Looks like it's in December.
Yeah, I think it's December.
Yep, board bylaw development.
Board bylaws, yeah. Okay, so that second paragraph, funds for board training shall be budgeted annually. I just have a question. I know we all go to CSBA. So is there a budget outside of that? And then it says, shall annually develop a board training calendar in order to schedule and track board training activities and to schedule opportunities.
The only training that occurs is CSBA, and we budget that.
Okay, and so there's no other training budgeted?
No, I guess, but we have had times where board members have requested to go to a training that's related to GUSD business, and we have allocated the funds for that. It's rare, but we could do it.
Okay,
But we do plan for CSBA attendance every year.
okay. And the
There
very,
was a free one right after I got on the board at the county office that I went to.
Sure, yep, right.
and the very next one, meeting conduct, board,
I thought you might find that one interesting. I found it interesting,
well, the one that is the optional meeting length extension.
yes.
So-
Gina and I had kind of a bet on whether you're gonna talk about that one.
So this says we can't go beyond 10:30 PM. What time is it? Okay, 8:55, we're good. Unless a majority of the board chooses to do so.
We used, when
You used to
Javier Aguirre was here,
Yep.
we had a deal on the agenda every night, said wouldn't go past, I think it was 10, right?
Yeah.
And we did all the time.
Yes.
So,
And you would have to stop at 10 and decide as a board if you wanted to
Whether you want to
continue.
go forward.
Am I correct in this is already in place, there are no changes, this is just current situation?
No.
This paragraph?
It says the following optional paragraph.
Right, but it's not highlighted or crossed out or anything, so
I don't believe it's. in
Presumably
current
it's already in there.
policy. I can check, but I don't think.
Yeah,
it's
I
there.
didn't check the current
I'll
policy
check.
to see. So anyway, do we
you
want
want
it
to
or
have
not?
this policy?
I'm sorry, that just brought it. So you're saying stuff in white might be changes from what I've seen before?
I don't remember that in the prior one, do you? We'll look it up.
But now I'm worried about, 500 pages here, that I was looking at deltas, but you're saying these are not just the deltas?
I don't know, James.
Okay.
We'll have to check,
Please let me know.
yes.
kind of important.
It's very
Yeah,
important.
we'll check. That could be in current policy and none of us have caught it.
So, yes? No? Do we want to include that in there? First reading.
No.
Yeah, I just said that.
I could go either way, frankly. Because,
It's not real.
yeah, exactly. I have seen it not be real. I would like it to be real, but in practice, it's not real.
If it's there, it says 10 o'clock, because that was Javier's big deal when he was president.
And we rarely go beyond 10:30. This board.
Well,
This board.
It would
Let's
be
not
more
jinx it.
realistic.
I know, let's not jinx it, but, okay.
Be more realistic.
All right, next one. I don't know what month this is,
I was gonna say,
sorry.
It's not December, because December's over.
Okay, so it's the next one. It's March. And it's about 10 pages into March. Board Policy 5111C. And it's about social security numbers for enrollment. We don't,
We don't do that.
okay. Good. Didn't think we did, but things change. I won't ask about that one. Okay. last one for me, 5113B, absences and excuses. The very last sentence says, "The board shall, by resolution entered into its minutes, approve reasonable methods that may be used to verify student absences due to illness or quarantine."
Well, we asked for parents to write us a note explaining why the absence. In some cases, we asked for doctor's notes.
The board shall, by resolution entered into its minutes. So it's talking about what we have to do.
That sounds a little bit overkill.
That's way too much, if you ask me.
It should be an AR to direct, general
Yeah.
direction of the board. It shouldn't be in a board policy.
Well, this says 5 CCR 421 requires the board to approve reasonable methods of verifying student absences.
Wow.
So that resolution should appear
That one
soon,
I
or
wanna ask Mary about.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we can,
That
we
right?
we can approve what
5113B.
our district staff is doing. We don't need a resolution or a board policy.
Oh,
That's
that's
idiotic.
That seems kind of nuts to me, but, okay.
That wasn't bad.
Well, I have another 10 questions that are just
Oh, great.
questions. Those I'll just email you.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? That does,
If you have any others by next Thursday, send them in.
okay. 7, action information items regarding facilities and maintenance. Facilities maintenance operations monthly update information item. Mr. Bombachi, Julie Avnet, and Dan McCullough. This thing busted open, I can't close it.
Rest of cabinet, you're welcome to leave if you wish. And the architects. You don't need, well, I guess they want to stay for this.
Julie Abnett is still recovering from a flu, so I'll cover in for her. The cash flow that she's usually sees, part one, of course, is the revenues. And we'll just highlight that for the 16-17 fiscal year. We're actually in the middle of closing the book. So we will be updating these for the closing actual numbers instead of the budget estimates that we have here. So all that first column set of numbers, for instance, developer fees, we've collected 2.2 million on actuals. So we'll update those values based on the actuals and then tweak the projections and for the subsequent years as usual. So the adjustments will probably come back in the second meeting of September. And the same thing will happen with the expenditures as well. This is really lagged this time around. So it's not, there we go, I think. No, it's not, I'm seeing something differently on my screen, Maribel, than. So, bottom line is there's not, it's in your packet, I think, but the bottom line is that the 2017 numbers that you see are for last year, that will be updated based on the actuals. There we go. And we'll bring you the closing set of numbers, both on the general fund side at the end of September, as well as, of course, the updated cash flow worksheets for the building funds, which include, of course, Measure EP, developer fees, Fund 35, and everything else that we do.
Questions or comments? Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Well, it's been a while since we've been up, so I'll try to be as quick as I can, but there's quite a few pictures and things to discuss. So
You've been busy, that's good.
we have been extremely busy this summer, and let me preface this by saying that it's been a tough summer because we have a hard time getting, the contractors having a hard time getting subcontractors at all because of the cost of housing versus the amount that they're getting paid. The Bay Area has been drained pretty badly of skilled workers, and it's really hit us bad this summer. There were times when I was out at the sites and they couldn't field crews because they just weren't available. So it's been really tough this summer, so let's get scooting through it. So the Christopher High School, first one is Christopher High School Science and Art Labs. Project start date at this point is September 12th. Actually, we'll probably be pushing that out a little bit. I think we're getting comments back on the 5th. And you have in your packet, you have kind of a schedule of when we're going to be soliciting bids and so on and so forth. The furniture has been ordered and so have the cabinets. So those actually are coming in about a week or so, and they'll be stored until we get the project through. We ordered those ahead of time, so we could expedite the project once we get the Division of the State Architect approval. We've got approval from the the DSA. However, we have to go to back check. Once we're done with that, we can start the process of soliciting bids and hiring. So tonight on the agenda, we do have the authorization to solicit bids for this project. Christopher High School, the solar project, started on June 12th. It actually started a couple weeks late. That's why we're a couple weeks late. They had some trying to find a financier was a little difficult. They started 2 weeks late, so we are running about 2 weeks late. Didn't really hurt us. We were able to get the parking lots open with enough parking to make opening day of school and happen until we're out of there. So light fixtures, trees have been removed. All underground electrical boring is complete. The piers have been drilled and being installed. Is this one of those slow times? It is, huh? Yeah, I gotta get back to where I was. I didn't know it was forwarding here. I just took it back to where I was gonna be. So this might be, so you were saying 10 o'clock, but I'm thinking about 2 o'clock in the morning at this point. So just a really quick, hopefully we'll be able to get through these quick, but basically this is how the solar works. I just want to run you through this really quick. The Bobcat comes out, drills a hole in the concrete, then the big rig comes out and drills a bigger hole. Then we've got these things, when we drilled the bigger hole, we found that the hole was half full of water, so we have what's called a caisson, goes down in the hole. And then the water gets pumped out, concrete goes in, these rebar cages go into there, and so do the stanchions on the side there. And once they're erected, that's what they look like. They get a bollard that gets poured around them, and so that's the beginning of the solar arrays. And the guy on the sidewalk does his little final work there. So that's Christopher High School. All those are up right now. As a matter of fact, we have the purlins, we have the cross members, and in the north parking lot, which is one adjacent to the pool, we have almost all the solar panels up. We'll be moving into the south parking lot likely tomorrow afternoon, finishing that up, and then taking that whole crew over to Gilroy High School while the electricians wire them and get it ready to plug into the grid. District office roof replacement. We're replacing the entire roof other than the tile roof. Project will occur between September 1st and October 15th. Actually, in talking to the roofer, and I like this plan, he wants to start a little bit later, but he wants to get it done in a very short period of time. So he's thinking about throwing 3 crews at it and getting it done in 2 weeks. I really like that because it's a very fast, very low impact on the district office. So that'll work out really good for us. Hopefully we'll move forward with that. And of course, we did have our bids. We got I think 6 bids, and we are here for we have an item for award of bidding contract to State Roofing Systems. Dan worked with them. He thought they were very good. The engineer's estimate was $450,000. The low bid was $379,827. The high bid was $503,000, and every bid after this one was $50,000 higher minimum. So we got a real good price on the roof. So we're very, very happy with that. We're $50,000 under engineer's estimate, which is, well, you know, as many times as I come up here and tell you what the engineer's estimate is, what the bid is, that's fantastic when we can get that far into the engineer's estimate. Gilroy High School solar project started June 12th. Once again, 2-week delay. All the trees were removed. Necessary light fixtures. That's the parking lot light fixtures have been removed. Underground electrical boring is complete. All the piers have been drilled and installed.
Were there trees on that parking lot?
There were trees along the fence that were going to block the solar.
Yeah.
Along the property line. And so we had to go out and do notifications, and we had absolutely zero negative response for removing those trees. So I think they actually wanted them gone. So once again, you've seen how the process works. This is what we did is we went in and put these in first. before the new asphalt went in, because we didn't want, we didn't want them driving heavy equipment over our brand-new asphalt to put in these pieces, you know, the drillers and all that. Here on the, you know, here on the right side here, they're doing the, they're finishing up the grading on the left side between the pillars. This is where all the electrical comes up, and it's right adjacent to the, right out in front of the rear entrance to the theater, if you will, and by this big sidewalk. So that's, you know, there's not, I mean, it's the same thing as the other one. We'll be moving from Christopher over to this. These are going up really fast. Once those are up, they go really quickly. Purlins go on, and the cross beams, and then the solar, then the electricians will hook them up. So we're looking at a total of potentially, for them to get the parking lots back open near 100% probably in the next 2 weeks or so. Gilroy High School Science Labs, project start date was July 10th. That was late because we didn't get the information of what we needed to do until late. Cabinets have been ordered. They are due September 8th. We already have everything in the plumbing chase walls. Everything is completed. We even put the walls back up. We have temporary cabinets in there. When they come in, it's about a one-day process to put them in, plumb the sink, and we're done. So that completion date is September 15th, given a little bit of extra finish work that we're going to have to do. Here's what the labs look like. I mean, I took these pictures, you know, a lot of these pictures were taken last week. Well, you know, you don't see the finished product here, so that's where we brought the plumbing in from the other building for the sinks. Gilroy High School Building Geacoustic Project, that started on June 12th. All the acoustic clouds are in place. The little rooms for the housing the portable acoustic wall are complete. The HVAC renovations, that's the mufflers, if you will, on the HVAC system, the air conditioning system are complete. Right now, we're scheduled for October 8th, which is, actually, we've moved that up to October 1st because Jonathan Souza has a concert ahead of that. So we've given the contractor till October 1st. And that date actually is when that portable wall comes in. We'll be done way ahead of that, so.
What about the glass by the cafeteria?
Oh, well, I'm gonna bring that up when I get to this pictures, and the reason I took these pictures. You see on the left the framing for the acoustical walls. On the right, the acoustical panels. On the right, you see the acoustical panels. On the left, you see the room. So here's where Dr. Flores is talking about this area up above. This is the servery. This area up above here will be completely enclosed in glass to prevent noise. And this roll-up door, which is now a hollow door, we've ordered a stainless steel door. It's actually an exterior type door, which has the rubber pieces to hold the noise. It also is insulated, so it keeps the noise from the kitchen completely out. So that whole wall, where we were going to do timers and shut things off, didn't sound like it was going to work out too good because we didn't have enough time for the food. And so we went ahead and went with just closing that wall off. The glass and the door's already there. The glass you won't notice, so there won't be any difference other than the sound will dissipate or be gone, actually. Gilroy High School parking lot. So that's coming up here. Project start date was June 12th. Once again, a little delay. All existing asphalt was removed. Stormwater retention system was installed. New entrance and exit was complete. Once again, we're behind by about a week. Grading and proof rolling is complete. Asphalt has been complete. Striping and painting has been completed. And that project, the asphalt, for all intents and purposes, is complete. They have a fence that they're putting up, so a couple of pieces of fence they're putting up, and that's the last of the project. Striping, everything has been 100% complete. You won't see that far on this, but you will see in the pictures where they actually. There's a little delay.
Marco drove Alvaro and I out there on the golf cart today, and it's incredible. It's beautiful. I never thought I'd say that about a parking lot. It is.
It's a lovely parking lot.
It is. You have to see it.
Okay, here we go. So on the left-hand side, you see where we strip, that's the machine that stripped all the asphalt. On the right-hand side, that is our retention system for the water, so we don't have Lake Gilroy High anymore. We have plenty of storage. On the left-hand side, that is our new 8-inch water line that went straight down the middle of the parking lot, 1,144 feet, and then branched off to pick up the existing fire hydrant that's located just to the left of the library. On the right, you see where the guy's standing. That is the new exit right turn only lane. The new right turn only lane on the right side there. What we're hoping is that most people will use that because it's really quick to get out on the street instead of making that left turn. We still do have a left turn lane, which is over on this side. So basically, it's 3 lanes. 2 going in. This is our left turn only, and then this one is our right turn only.
Okay.
Worked out perfect today.
Yeah, he said it was very fast.
Yep. Yeah, we monitored the morning and the afternoon.
Wow.
And it went really well, yeah.
Sloan complimented it. She really liked it. So.
She liked the exit?
Yeah.
Okay, on the left-hand side, they're pouring concrete. On the right-hand side, that's kind of the finished product, or the semi-finished product of the parking lot. That's the day that the asphalt was finished. And the day that the asphalt finished, they already started putting in the temporary, or the markings for the temporary, for the stalls.
The only thing before you go on the far left, that's the exit out, and that will become a speedway. So we're gonna need some speed bumps.
Okay, so I addressed that with, Alvaro spoke with him this morning, or earlier today about that. We asked for speed bumps. We fully knew this was gonna happen. DSA would not allow them.
They wouldn't let us?
They
Oh
would
my
not allow us to
God.
put speed bumps in. However, DSA is only on this as long as our inspector's on this. As soon as we're done, the speed
We
bumps.
should put speed bumps in.
Yeah, the speed bumps will go in.
Kids were flying out of that parking lot,
Yeah.
even as bad as it was. Now that's, I mean, I was sitting there in my car thinking, wow, this would be fun.
Well, it's a
Flying
perfect
out of
2-lane
there.
road, so it's a drag race strip,
Yeah,
right? So
right.
we're gonna actually charge for that, but, no, but we are, I'll be talking to Dan about, his, the longer undulating type that we
Yeah,
have
like
at
we did
Christopher.
at Christopher.
Yeah.
Were you
And that's what we'll be
able
putting in
to
there.
maintain your parking spaces, or did you lose any spaces in this?
If we lost any, we lost about 6 out of about 500, so.
Yeah, it's huge.
And what's interesting is, you see where this area is, all the way in the back of the parking lot, beyond those where the stands are. So that's there's 3 rows in the very back of the parking lot back here. That's what we had for parking today, and there was at least 30 spots that were remained open after everybody parked. So that's how much the parking lot actually gets used.
During
So-
the school day, James,
Yeah.
you need to go to a football game.
Well, no, clearly, during the school day, we will be out of here before the football game starts, or we'll let them park in there, whichever one occurs, yeah. No, I know that fills up. Battle of the Bands, obviously, as well.
Oh, yes.
Gilroy High School Phase 1 portable building relocation project. Again, that's the beginning of the new the 2-story math building. We had to move all the portable buildings out of the way. So we started that on the 12th. We actually did start on the 12th. The underground utilities were very, very extensive. As a matter of fact, 80% of the utilities for the 2-story building were performed in this Phase 1. We also put the 8-inch fire service, that got installed, and what a big difference it is. You'd be amazed at what the fire service was before and what it is now. The sanitary sewer line there, we need to make 100-foot of sanitary sewer line repair. It had a big belly in it, and we stubbed off of that one for the new building. 5 portable buildings were moved and set. Completion date was on August 16th. That has been completed. The teachers are in the rooms. There's one that's, I think, being used for storage, but teachers are in the rooms. Rooms were, we went to the last minute, about 8 o'clock last night. But that's how it goes sometimes, you know. A couple of minor issues, but we're working on those. We'll get those repaired. Phase 2 is in DSA. We have back check at the end of the month. And Phase 3 is also, which is the American Modular Systems portion. You know, they have to do their own drawings and submit them to DSA. Those are also in DSA and will be looking at, I think, back check at the end of the month as well. We have a few pictures. Yeah. Pictures don't want to load tonight, I don't know why, but. Here we go. So this is just to show you the amount of utilities that were put in. Everything from right here to right here, those are all utilities. This whole thing was utilities. It was water, it was sewer, it was storm, it was electrical, it was low voltage, it was fire. You could not get anything through there ever again with the amount of utilities that we had to put in, so. This was really utility-heavy project.
Oh, okay, now I see where I'm looking.
And you can see, now you see where all the huge amount of electrical vaults are. Those electrical vaults continue down. The one that's down here is more of the fire line. And, it didn't move yet, did it?
It is.
No? No, it did. No, it didn't. I'm waiting for it to load here. This is more of the finished product. This is after they were pretty much done. And you see that we have a ramp that goes up and goes across, and what you don't see is we have all the new style handrails on them and everything.
They look really nice.
And then, thank you. And you'll see that the little bump outs will be placed in the next phase, and it'll look like what we presented before of that quad area. So, you know, you start somewhere and you work your way there. So this is our process. You're right. Thank you. Okay, and then Gilroy High School Phase 2 Portable Building Relocation Project. We have one issue or one item for that, and that is contract increase with the LPA Architects. As you recall, when they came in, they were very low, but I guess the issue that we have is that we added a lot of scope to the project that they have to design. And so we added we added a bit more money to the project, and we added quite a bit more design. So we've reviewed it, and we feel that it's a fair contract increase to cover their costs for the new design and for the increase in the scope of the project. So we'll be also asking for authorization to solicit bids for Phase 2, because we need to get that going as quickly as we possibly can. So as soon as that comes out of Division of the State Architect, we'll be putting that out to bid and moving.
So I'm a little confused both about the increase and then as the way it's presented. It says they originally bid the project at 5% of the construction value.
Yes.
Okay, so then it says down below, Building 3, $8 million at 4%, Site 1, 1.4 at 8, Site 2, 3.2 million at 8%. So how does that relate to the original 5% bid?
That's the increases of the cost of those buildings. That's what the increases were. So if you take that and you take the 5%, that's what the dollar value increase is.
Okay, so the 4% at 8 million and the 8 at 1.4 and 8 at 3.2, that equals out to 5%?
It will, yeah, overall it equals out to 5%, that is correct.
The 8% is the increase in the cost of the buildings?
That is correct, in the project itself. yeah.
Project.
Yeah. From what we very first started with, what we presented. Originally, the building was at 7.2, and right now the building's at 8.3.
And a lot of that was generated by us.
By us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
But just to make sure I'm clear, the architect's fee is 5%?
5% of the project total, yeah.
Total?
Yeah.
That didn't change?
That did not.
Okay.
No, that didn't
Yeah, I
change.
just wanted to make sure everybody understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't clear from the board briefing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for asking.
Thank you. The new elementary school property, we've been working really hard on this, and there's so much that goes on that property, and you don't get a real good feeling of how much work has to happen before we've ever even put a shovel in the ground. But basically, We've been working with the Department of Toxic Substance Control. Right now, we've completed the preliminary endangerment assessment, but now we're in the removal action work plan, the RAW. We're working on that as we speak. We did get our biology study completed. We went out twice. They thought they found some indicators of wetlands, and we were able to bring out the Army Corps of Engineers. What we ended up doing was we were able to join with Glen Loma and get a declaration on that instead of having to get a permit. So we're in great shape on the biology. Traffic study is underway. We've done some reviews. We're doing some new study criteria, and that'll be looking to get that done in hopefully the next couple of weeks. Geotechnical survey, they came out and did their drilling last week. I met them out there, and we'll be getting the results as soon as they get all the results back. What he said initially, I met the geologist, he said, you've got 2 feet, about 1.5 feet of clay soil, the fatty clay soil. Under that, you've got the best soil in the valley. So basically, if you could remove 1.5 feet, but we actually need to add, so that's not gonna happen, and it's really expensive to remove, so. But underneath, we've got a very, very, very good base for the soil. And he's a geologist, he sees it all the time, so. And then, of course, our bridging document, and you've seen this tonight. So, the one thing that we do have, and I've asked WLC Architects to stick around for this, Alvaro and I had a discussion about how we're going to protect the school district from what happened at the Christopher High School, and that kind of got out of control, and the funding got out of control, and so on and so forth. Well, there's a couple things. You got Alvaro and myself. But on top of that, we want to bring WLC on to continue through the process all the way through construction to help us get through that process without, number one, losing sight of what our vision is for the school to be. So they'll help with the design process along with the new design build team, but also the submittals, the construction, all the way through the process. So we don't skip a beat as far as our vision remains the same, what we want to get built gets built, and that the prices don't escalate, you know. So these are a lot of the parameters that we talked about, and I'm going to let Alvaro speak a few words to it.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. It's really important for us, and I believe for the board, to have a maximum guaranteed price that we can count on, and most importantly, a deliverable that we can count on. You've envisioned the school, you've done all this work through our various committees and facility subcommittee to get a school that you're proud of, that'll stay there for 40+ years, if not longer than that. So we want to make sure that when you talk about acoustical treatments, that the shading components, all those, the things that you eventually hide between the wall, all the elements are actually going to be built to their accountability standards. And there's nothing better than an architect to be watching your back to make sure that there's no corners that are cut that are not going to be transparent to Jim and I. So we do need a higher level of expertise to make sure that this $43 million project goes well and that we execute it well at all points. Having said that, their total combined fee is less than 1% of the total project cost. So I think that's excellent insurance. If you ask me, it's 0.97% of the total project as an extremely good insurance through the end of the construction phase, through June 2020, I believe. So that we can have WLC's expertise on board until then. So that's the rationale for this contract increase.
Well, aren't we going to be hiring an architect?
That works for the builder, yes. The builder will hire the architect, if I'm correct.
And aren't we going to have a guaranteed maximum price contract anyways?
Right, and you know, like Jim said, we had that going at Christopher with a maximum guaranteed price to lease back, and then we had change orders and well over 10%, and it just didn't really go well. So even though there's different players and different accountability here, I think we are actually looking at this and saying, look, It's a key $43 million project, an opportunity for us to make sure that we get what we want out of it. And it's money well worth spent, I think, because we're going to have an architect of our own essentially looking over their shoulder, the builder, who hires a sub-architect to work for them. There's one contract that we'll basically sign and enter into an agreement with, and that's with the builder.
Do you have any precedent for this?
I'm sorry?
Do we have any precedent for this
Yeah.
in the district?
Oh, yes,
We're gonna let.
Yeah, because
Will
I'm
from
not,
WLCC.
I'm not seeing it so far.
Okay, yeah.
We did the same thing for Peralta Community College District. They had a $40 million science building at Merritt College that is now built. And our team was brought on to be the bridging architects, which we did. And we were contracted to go through, all the way through construction. And our role primarily, as Alvaro was saying, is to basically work for you, the district. The difference between the process that typically is done and the design-build process is that the architect on the design-build process works for the contractor. He does not work for the district. And so as a consequence, he doesn't answer, you really don't, you interface with him or her when you have meetings with the programming meetings and staff, but Jim or Alvaro cannot direct them in terms of their work. Their work is directed by the contractor only, because that's who they're contracted with. And what some districts want, and in this case Peralta wanted it, they want to have an architect or professional that worked directly for them to make sure that the scope of work, and we've basically become an arm of the district, assisting them. We assisted in looking at submittals, in reviewing documents and drawings to make sure it stayed with the vision that the district had already agreed with. And that building turned out very good, as a matter of fact.
So if the district cannot direct the architect because the architect is an employee of the contractor, how does hiring a second architect give us the ability to control what that architect that doesn't work for us is doing?
Well, what happens is, in terms of the staff, it's basically a staffing issue. You would have Jim, for example, would be there as the district rep at meetings, giving the district's to the contractor about, but we, instead of Jim being the one to do that, we assisted in doing that because we understood, we worked on the design, understood the design, we understood what wanted, we had all the meetings with the staff, and we then put that input and we helped to guide the process going through. We also reviewed to make sure that if there are things that we think are going astray, whether regarding budget or whether it's regarding design, then we then work to bring that back into the direction that the district wants to go.
Any other questions?
Yes.
I mean,
Okay, the contractor will hire another set of architects.
Correct.
Why do that? Why doesn't he just use you?
They can't bid on it.
Yeah.
You can't do that?
No, we, as part of our contract with you, we're not allowed to be in that process with the design build, as one of the design build teams.
I see.
James?
So just so everybody understands, we're not when we hire, we're hiring a contractor. We'll be hiring a contractor like Block Construction or XL Construction or Flint or whoever. They'll hire an architect that works for them and has nothing to do with us whatsoever. So that's the difference here. If normally we hire the architect and then we hire the contractor. In this case, we hire the contractor and the contractor hires the architect, just so that I make that clear.
Trustee Pace?
So you'd be kind of acting like as a project manager at these meetings with all the parties to make sure that the district's interests and vision are upheld?
Exactly.
And you are more able to do that than Jim because you have the architectural background, that's kind of the philosophy?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trustee Rosso?
And, I mean, the whole concept of what we have them here for is to, I mean, we've developed the concepts here and to make sure that we're getting, somebody that's on our side that's looking out for our interest on this design. And so, and for the money spent in proportion to the size of the project and the importance of staying within the budget, it's going to be a challenge, I think. We all know that. I think we need every resource we can get to help us be able to stay within budget and execute on the things that we're expecting for this project. And I think so far, at least I have seen in the development of getting to the where we are, what you've seen so far, I think has been a very impressive result. That's my 2 cents.
Trustee Bass?
It feels counterintuitive to spend money to save money, but I understand the need definitely, and I'm just wondering, we've had things in the past where buildings have gone wrong, and we've always asked who can we go after, right? Whose fault was this architectural calamity? And so do we guarantee against those kinds of things as well in the future? And I don't understand how that works. Who does that land on then when we have 2 architects at the same time?
Well, you don't have 2 architects per se. You have a contractor. And if there is a calamity of some type, you would go after that contractor, because that's the only person that you are actually contracted with. What we are is going to be, we are going to we can't guarantee you, unfortunately, that there won't be any calamities, but we're there to try to avoid those calamities. That's going to be our role, is to be there to try to see them before they happen and try to rein that in before you end up with a problem down the road. And that's the intent of why we discussed that with Alvaro and with Jim, and we feel it's something that'd be useful. It's something that's not unprecedented. It's done often, not just the one project that we did, but it's done often with the design-build process, for the very reason of what you just talked about, which is, seems redundant in a way, but the design-build process is redundant, because the state is requiring that you have bridging documents for design-build. It's a requirement you have bridging documents. It means you have to hire an architect, but that architect doesn't work on actually designing the project. So you're going to have 2 architects anyway, because you always have this process that we're going through now, and then after that, the contractor comes on board who has their own architect, and that's going to be part of their fee that they charge you, is all the costs of the architecture design as well as the construction. So the architect is essentially a subcontractor to the contractor. He's like his electrician or his plumber or whatever, but he also has an architect on his team to actually execute the project.
DC? All the designs we saw tonight can be redone by the second architect, even if we don't want it done?
Well, and that's the reason why some districts like to keep the architect on. There will be changes. It will be revised, I guarantee you that. But what we come on for is to minimize those changes and make sure those revisions still keep with the design intent that you want from the very beginning. Because once you turn it over to the design-build team, you either have to be there with them or they go and do what they need to do. And so our role is to be there with them and assist you in making sure that all the changes they make, which will be a lot, are not going to take you astray from where you wanted to go.
The one last thing I would add is just to remember that the different model, the traditional one of design, bid, and build, has an architect pointing fingers to the contractor and vice versa. This is not going to happen that way because you only have one person to point a finger at us as the contractor. So we need somebody capable of saying, you're not going to pull the fast one on us. We need a professional to do that. Because otherwise, it's just us fighting a contractor with an architect behind him pointing the finger at all of us if there's a conflict. I think that's a key difference in the delivery model.
The problem is, this is a last-minute deal. This whole process was presented to us and did not include this. And now we're at the tail end. We've had the first part done, and oh yeah, here's another $200,000 because we want to do this. It's very important. It's very necessary. But this is the first time I've heard it, so I have a problem with that, and I'm not going to support this for that reason.
Other comments? Trustee Pace?
I respect what you just said, Mark, that makes sense, but in my firm, whenever we do construction, we hire a third party who makes sure that the contractor is doing what we want. You wouldn't want me doing that, and I understand why staff would want something like that, so I don't like the surprise at the end, you know, it would've been nice to have thought of this at the beginning, but I see its value.
Other comments? Okay, so we have items B through F, and I will entertain a motion.
And two of them are resolutions?
Right, so we need to do roll call votes.
I would make a motion to approve items B through E. I don't intend on voting for F.
Yeah.
Second?
Okay, roll call. It's frozen.
Heather Bass,
Yes?
B.C. Doyle,
Yes?
Mark Good.
Yes.
Pat Midgard absent, James Pace.
Yes?
Linda Pacino,
Yes.
Jaime Rosso.
Yes.
Move for approval of item 7F.
Second.
And we don't need roll call, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. And it passes. Thank you.
Okay, we still have a little bit of,
The Dan Show.
a little bit of our process left. There's no more of the items on it. So the Rod Kelly Fire Alarm Project and Low Voltage Project, we finished that. The project did start on April 10th. We started it a couple of months early because to make sure we got that one done on time, and that one was actually done a little bit ahead of time. We were about a week ahead of time. So we got everything tested, everything works, and we got one. We got one that actually came in on time, and it is on budget, as a matter of fact. All the wiring and equipment is complete. System testing has been completed. Low voltage system has been updated. We had to install over 100 access panels. They have been installed. And our project completion date was August 14th ahead of schedule. So we were very happy with that. Here's some of the pieces when they come up here in a second. A couple of pictures it's hard to take pictures of fire alarm, but we tried the best we could. Okay, so on the left, that's the new fire alarm panel. On the right, that's a strobe. On the left, there's the speaker because it says, there is a fire and you need to move out of the building. There's a little verbiage that they use. This is a complete voice system that's been installed, the first one we've had so far. And that's the hatch on the right, one of the 120 total hatches that were installed to get up and get into the area. So now I'll turn it over to Dan for maintenance. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Flores, School Board. I'll try to keep this brief. I think every summer I come up here and tell you we've had our busiest, best summer yet. Well, this summer we absolutely did have our busiest and best, most productive summer. And some of that is due to you approving the equipment that you approved for our custodial crew. It made a huge difference this summer. Our crew was trained on the equipment. They were much more efficient. We got things done in a timely fashion. We got custodians back to their sites from their team cleaning over the summer. And I do want to acknowledge our supervisor, Teofilo Delgado, did a very good job of keeping our teams tuned up. We adjusted them and tweaked teams weekly, and it was very effective. We did a really good job. I'm very happy about what was done this summer. We did have some photo finishes due to the summer schools, very limited time to get in there. Our custodial crew did work overtime the last few weekends. They really hit it hard. Some of the sites that were impacted by construction, we also were in there. Some schools into late yesterday. Even our grounds crew worked late yesterday to get the sites looking as good as possible. These are just a couple of examples of some of the schools that were cleaned, some of the products now that we're using on the floors, and what the difference of the new equipment is making and how quickly we can get these done. Hopefully we'll have another picture coming soon.
I was in the Christopher Art Room today, and the teacher was saying it has never been that clean ever.
Oh, good.
Even when it was opened.
I'm glad to hear that. It's been a tough one to stay on top of. Well, that's good to hear. So that's another example. Both these are Christopher High. That's a tough site to keep clean with the floor choice that was made there. That's a big, big task to keep that school clean. And with the new equipment that we do have, the Zamboni, that's what we call the riding machine, that's made a big difference also. This is another thing we got done this summer. The ugly towers at Luigi were removed. They also received a new flagpole at the front entrance of the school. The front area will be rehabbed. The signage area will be replanted. That area suffered pretty bad with the drought. It suffered more when we took these towers down, but we will be cleaning that up. And you might have seen throughout the district, we are installing mulch just about everywhere and replanting where we can. Also, I don't know if you have seen this, the entrance, and I had nothing to do with this, the entrance has a new mural, which is fantastic. It really enhanced the entrance to that school. This is a picture of the Gilroy High Auto Shop spray booth before with a big excavator for demolition parked in front of it, and there's the after on the right-hand side. Right now it's fenced in with a temporary fence. There is some discussion from the site if we can utilize that as some parking for student services staff, so we'll be looking into that. El Roble was probably our biggest project of the summer. We did a lot of trip hazard repair, and also where the tree wells were, the planter wells were lifting and separating, a lot of heaving. Extremely bad trip hazards developed over the last year. And EF&S Concrete, again, one of our prime contractors, went in and just did a great job of putting in the new planters and taking care of the trip hazards. Made a big difference on the site. And there's our mulch. We've probably purchased close to 800 yards of mulch this summer. It's a very inexpensive and very effective immediate way to improve our landscaping. We've been able to keep the weeds down somewhat with this mulch. It does help us. We are using some other weed killers these days. We're not using Roundup. We're not using the conventional herbicides. We're using organic products, and we are looking at some alternatives that I'll hopefully be bringing you, such as a steam killing machine for weeds that's very effective. We did do a lot of floor replacements. You approved quite a few prior to the summer, but we did get some last-minute requests that we also took care of over the summer. We probably replaced close to 30 floors around the district and probably repaired another 20 or so. Roof leaks, we have been repairing those. We got quite a few over this last winter with all the rains. We have used our Tremco Waterproofing Associates and also our staff. So we've just about checked all the areas off, and we'll be able to test them hopefully with winter coming up. Mount Madonna High School, we have done some renovations for a new food serving area in room 12. It is basically complete other than some other outside work. We need to improve a mop sink that's an existing sink that the health department's requiring. And also at Mount Madonna, we overlaid the decomposed granite hardscape, which is it was a big improvement to the appearance of the site, plus just walking it reduced a lot of the trip hazards, and it had not been done for a long time. Brownell lunch tables, which were board approved, were delivered right before the Garlic Festival. So the Garlic Festival was able to take the wood tables and use them, and now the tables have been returned, the wood ones, to our yard, which we are rebuilding, and we will be sending out to other sites as needed. So they have very nice lunch tables for to go into the nice new lunch shelter Jim built. Glenview, the community garden was completed off of 9th Street, so that should be taking shape here shortly. That was performed with a grant. Security cameras were installed at the preschool, updated at our maintenance yard, and also transportation. And they've already been put in use. We've caught 2 bad guys breaking into our building and doing bad things, and the police were able to identify them and did catch them. Playground equipment, which was board approved, it's coming in waves. It's in progress right now. We got that board approved in June. It takes several weeks for the parts to come in, but that will be getting completed. fairly soon here. Our drinking water was tested by the local water district. All the sites were tested. That we picked a water fountain and a kitchen water source. All sites tested clean. There was no action required, no levels of detection that required any type of action, so we have very good water. Tablet training on our work order system is taking place. Marty Bell's been very generous with her time training my staff to use the new tablets that we received. We will be transitioning to our electronic system here fairly soon. Work order requests this summer was phenomenal for the amount of requests we have. We did prioritize anything that got the kids in the seats and made things safe, took a priority. So some things went on the back burner. We will have a meeting next week and reprioritize with all our staff what will get done. But the emphasis this summer was what put the kids in the seats and made things safe. And as I mentioned earlier, weed control, pest control, we are using organic products, and especially for the pest control, we have had exceptional results. Our complaints have gone down tremendously, and the pesticide that we're using is basically, it's essential oils and soap as a surfactant. It's a peppermint oil and rosemary, so it really smells good too. But we can spray it without notification. It's exempt from the Department of Pesticide regulations. It's a very good product, and we've had very good results. Also, our custodians are equipped with a small hand bottle of a very similar product, so they can take care of small situations on site. We don't have to hire out for that. Another thing we did with our vendor that takes care of the bees, wasp, and hornets, they did a pre-inspection about a week ago of all our sites. Serviced every site that we've had problems before, put out traps, removed some nests. So we tried to be preemptive here and avoid any issues that we've had in the past with first day of school, the kids out in the fields and they kick a hornet's nest and get stung. So I haven't had any complaints. I think we hopefully avoided that. Solar Sono does have issues. It will be serviced weekly because it's an exceptional season for wasps and bees. I think that's it.
How did your fly situation end up?
That actually got resolved immediately once the egg farm was cleaned up.
Oh, very nice.
And we've got a plan in place if it happens again this year. There's a small, tiny insect we can introduce to the site that will eat the fly larva. So we could put that around the perimeter of the site, and if we think that might be an issue, we might give that a try. It's supposed to be very effective. Another organic product.
They still don't raise chickens on that place, do
I don't know.
they? Last time I was there, they were shipping in eggs. You could buy the eggs, but there were no chickens on the place.
Well, there must be chickens because they had a pile of manure that was causing the issue.
Oh, okay.
Trustee Russell?
It's very good to hear about the organic pesticide. It's weird that we're calling them pesticides, but what is the vendor, or is it a specific brand, a product, or?
The Incentra 3 is the, and that's, I had to list it with what we use, even though it's exempt to be listed with a DPR. I don't have to register it, but I did list it in our handbook, district handbook, as one of the products that we could and might use.
Well,
And we still have the conventional products listed, but we've chose not to use them.
Well, I think that's great news for the district, and that's good PR out there in the community.
Because we were always getting complaints from
And,
staff
and I think we ought to definitely, make hay about that.
Well, thank you. I think it's a good direction as a district to go. I'd rather deal with insects and pests in another way than to introduce chemicals with the kids.
And it's good, talking about, in other words, where we educate our community, where we take the lead on doing things in the community. I think that's a real good example of what we're doing there, and that's great. I'm really glad to hear
And other
that.
districts are doing the same thing. Quite a few are reluctant to use the Roundup. There's a lot of controversy right now, and I'd rather avoid that.
That work on ants in my kitchen?
Yes. You can buy a similar product at Home Depot.
Dan, you mentioned that Solorzano has a problem with,
Yes. And our
Hornets
service
or
provider
wasps?
will be out once a week until
is there,
the season
well,
is over.
what I'm asking for, is it the location? Is it, I mean,
I
what's
think
the?
that has something to do with it. We did learn at Los
Only
Animas.
because we now have a new elementary school going in very
Yeah.
close to
Well,
there.
there's a lot of habitat around that area that
Mhm.
could be part of it.
Mhm.
We did try, and it was successful at Los Animas and Rucker. We bought enclosed cans with the enclosed lids with the spring
Mhm.
lid, and that has helped a lot.
Oh,
Because
good.
we don't have open trash at food time, you know, so
Yeah.
it's helped a lot in that
Good.
respect too. So hopefully, if that's successful, we can transition all our sites, but they are expensive. The cans are about 4 times the cost of the ones we normally use.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Trustee Rosso?
I just have a quick comment. You know, as we talk about building the new school with all these big eaves and designs, and we always talk about then the after effect is the birds and the wasp and everything else that lives in the new buildings. I'm just curious if we.
We have
are-
discussed that at, I think the last meeting I brought that up with. That's a beautiful school, what they've designed, but those big, large, vast overhangs have been a problem. Christopher High and Gilroy High, prime example of what not to do. And they said they had some things they could incorporate to avoid that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, what not to do because of?
Well, with the open beams and places for birds to perch and land and
Okay.
stay, but they said they have dealt with that before.
Okay.
So hopefully we can avoid the netting.
Golden, yeah, golden egg we've had installed afterwards.
I get it.
Yeah, hopefully
Any other
actions can be
questions or
taken
comments?
before we have to install netting.
Okay, thank you very
you.
much, and thanks for your hard work, you and your crew over the summer. Appreciate it. Okay, next item, board member reports. Okay, hearing nothing. No. Anybody? Trustee Pace.
I joined the new staff orientation, and we have a lot of excited new people who've come to the district who are, it was really good. Everyone was on the same page and excited about helping our kids, so that was good. Today was the first day of school. I visited several sites, and it was great to see the wheels just working, you know. I'm sure there were hiccups, but from the outside, everything looked smooth, so it was very good.
I was at El Roble this morning. It was a huge number of parents and I didn't, more than normal. Plus we had Gilroy City working on the street next to the school, but everything went fairly smooth, and it was a nice opening day.
Anybody else? Yes.
Dr. Flores, do you want to talk about the eclipse? Is that? Sure. There's an eclipse coming. Don't look at it.
Don't look at it.
Don't look at it. It's the first thing I'm going to say. There is a solar eclipse occurring on Monday, starting at, I believe, 9:03 and ending at 11:28 here in California. And it's a partial eclipse, not a full eclipse. And what we have given direction to our principals to do is, as much as possible, keep the students indoors. It's not possible to keep them indoors for 2.5 hours, but for the most part, and they're following what we call rainy day procedures at all the sites as much as they can keep students in. But we're also using this as an educational opportunity on 2 fronts. One, to educate them about the danger of looking directly at the sun. If you've read stuff on the internet, like I have, as little as a few seconds exposure can result in very serious damage to the eyes, because it's like a really, really bad sunburn to the eyes. And so we're going to educate students starting tomorrow. All the principals, teachers will be talking to students tomorrow about the dangers, and then again Monday morning we'll be reminding them of the dangers, because we can't supervise 11,500 kids, every one of them individually. So students have to take some responsibility. At the elementary level, they'll be keeping them in pretty much for the 2.5 hours, which really just means missing a recess for most of them, or, you know, a little bit of adjustments on the early lunches. At the secondary level, though, there are passing periods, and, you know, we're just going to have to admonish the students not to look at it and why. But we also want them to realize what a great astronomical opportunity this is, and so we've asked them to make sure that our students get a chance to watch the NASA live streaming of the event, not for 2.5 hours, of course, but some portions of the event so that they can actually experience this incredible. My son was telling me today, and I don't know if it's correct, that we've never had a solar eclipse in the United States, I guess, in recorded history. No?
Yeah.
Was there one in the 70s?
Yeah.
No, not,
Partial.
not a total.
It was partial.
This is a total eclipse. If you look at it starts in Oregon and goes down to like South Carolina, and it's called totality. And apparently that in recorded history, there hasn't been one. So on that path, motels and hotels and have been booked for months apparently by all these fanatics. And I've heard today that even parents are taking their kids to Oregon to witness this. So it's a very big event. I guess it's happened in other countries, and usually Americans go to those other countries to witness this total eclipse, but I guess we haven't had one here. We've had partial eclipses, but anyway, that's what I heard today from my son, who's been reading about it extensively. But anyway, we're taking precautions to make sure, as much as we can within reason, our students don't take a risk and look at the sun during the partial eclipse here in California.
June 8th, 1918.
Was one a total?
Total?
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you.
I remember that one.
Was it one
Yeah, we were there.
that went across the United States? Cool. Were there any before that?
Not that good with Wikipedia.
Thanks to James, we corrected that immediately. I'll have to talk to my son.
Yes. Any other reports for board members? Okay. Next, upcoming and new referral agenda items. Anything anybody wants to talk about? Trustee Good?
Go ahead.
I'd like to get a report on how our classes are being staffed. I've heard, for example, at Rucker, there's a number of combo classes been formed.
Engaged.
So I want to see how we're doing with that generally, and an offline report is fine.
Okay. So staffed at Rucker or in general?
In general.
Oh, that's a big report.
Combo classes throughout the district?
Oh, yeah,
I would be
we can answer
interested in
that easily.
Yeah.
It's pretty unusual. Last year we had one, the year before 6.
Great.
And the year before that, it'd be 12 or 13. They're pretty rare now, but we have a very special circumstance at Rucker.
Well, that's the one I heard about.
Yeah, so we can tell you about that, certainly. Yeah, and this has been discussed since last spring. I personally was involved in making sure that word got out, that we would likely have combo classes in Rucker Gate because of the way the numbers fell this year. So anyway, I don't know about other combos. I don't remember seeing any on the chart yesterday. I don't think I heard of any this year. I could be wrong. We'll check. But last year, we've been making a concerted effort for the last few years to avoid combos.
That's what I thought.
Yes. So this is unusual, and it's because we have a single gate class at each of 3 grades, and the numbers just aren't working well this year.
Anything else from board members?
I did want to mention on the board calendar that we've incorporated the concept of having the SIPSA spread out over a number of board meetings. So I just wanted to call that out to you, that we've scheduled 2 or 3 at each of the board meetings starting in September. We're trying a new idea here, and even putting some of those during study sessions so it doesn't impact the regular board meeting too much. But we're hoping that you brought this up during the retreat, that the way we've been doing it is too much in one evening, for instance, to have 8 elementary schools present their SIPSAs, and then, there's not, the people that go later, there's no questions because everybody's tired and pressed for time. So this is spreading them out 2 or 3 over a series of board meetings.
You know, I wonder how a larger district would do it. For example, you know, the board of LA Unified does not hear every SIPSA for every school. I mean, they couldn't.
Yeah.
So there have to be alternative ways of doing it.
Well, the only thing that has to be approved by the board is their SIPSA plans. There's no requirement to do an oral presentation. That was something we decided years ago. The first board that hired me wanted this done, and that doesn't mean you couldn't change it. You could decide not to do it at all. It's totally up to the board. It's not a requirement. The only requirement is the, actual SIPSA plan must be approved by the board, and I think it's by December. Devin, Kathleen are gone, but I believe it's sometime in November, or certainly by December. They have to be approved. So we're just going to try it this way, and I wanted to just call that out.
Thank you. I think that'll be nice.
Well, and it means, looking at it, it means that our closed sessions, for some of them, we only have half an hour, so we'll have to be very efficient.
And possibly go back in after.
Okay. Anything else? Trustee Rosso.
When we were visiting Gilroy High School on the facilities visit, we went and observed some needs at the pool area.
Yes.
That need to be addressed. And I know we're probably going to put that through the facilities, I presume, first, and then bring it through to the board.
We are.
Is that correct? Okay, so I guess I just want to call it to the attention of the board. Also, we had talked about, with the new parking done and largely, the facility, the new wing that's being built, the blacktop leading to the stadium is pretty deficient by comparison to everything around it, all this work that's been done. And there was talk about the need to address that as well. And so, again, I presume this is going to go through the facilities.
Right.
And then, and a third thing was, one of the things that in walking the new facility, we talked about the beautiful parking lot and the access for the parking lot, but one thing that did diminish with the expansion of the parking and all that was the actual walking access onto the campus, and on the walkways became more diminished because literally, first of all, it's a narrow walk on in front of the theater and all that, but then big beams got put in there for the sake of, the solar, the solar panels. And so it literally, instead of making it more pedestrian-friendly and accessible, it actually limited pedestrian access. Well, we were improving auto access and parking and did a good job in that area. We didn't do as good a job in the pedestrian focus. And which brings me to a larger point, which is, I think one of the big areas where, we talk about walking routes to school and, encouraging bike riding in neighborhood schools and access and to encourage walking and riding to schools and access onto the campuses. I think we have to have more focus about that in all our projects because the facilities, I don't think the facilities committee, and I think James can speak for himself, I don't think we really looked at the fact that that was happening to the walkways until they actually put the posts in. And after the fact, we said, gee, we should maybe done it differently, and then
Jaime,
anyway.
I'm just getting a little nervous because now we're getting into.
That's fine. I'm just throwing out the conversation about going forward that I would like to have. I mean, I know we're talking about Alexander Place transportation concerns. Has to do with our students, but I'm also talking about accessibility in all. throughout the school district, that becomes a bigger, we pay more attention to that.
Is that something that would?
That's something that we address. I mean, we're talking about walk and riding to school issues.
So it's something that
But we have
can
an
be discussed in the
upcoming,
facility
yeah, we
committee?
have an upcoming audit. I forgot when that's scheduled, Alvaro, the Safe Routes to School audit, do you remember? I mean, I think it'd be good to see the results of that audit.
A meeting with Alicia next week, next Wednesday, to try and set some potential dates up for that walk.
Good.
It's very important to get that underway. I agree with Trustee Russo.
And is that throughout the whole district?
Yes.
Yep.
I think what Jaime's talking about, though, correct me if I'm wrong, is when we have some new project, we need some procedure whereby that's examined before we actually do it, and then we find out, well, we screwed it up, right? So some sort of independent process.
Standards for,
Yeah.
you know,
This
we
width
need
of the
For
sidewalk.
ingress,
sidewalks,
egress.
we need,
Yeah.
Pedestrians in and out,
Right.
and some box that's checked to make sure that we haven't messed anything up, and if we're creating something, that we have accommodated that before we actually build it.
Again, is that something that should be
Yeah, I think
discussed in
we
the
need to
facility committee?
schedule An agenda item if we're gonna talk about this.
Yeah.
But I completely agree that, like, the standard for the width of sidewalks should be, you know, like we have a standard for the plumbing.
Right.
We should have a standard for the width of the sidewalks. So that's something I think we should talk about in Facilities Committee. That's why I asked earlier on the new elementary school, the width of those sidewalks, which are very wide, thankfully.
Right, because we kept bringing it up.
Yeah.
You know, but also, even what James brought up, when we just doing that simple look at the map there
Right.
and saying, gee, instead of crossing,
About the driveway?
you know, they're crossing the driveway, go around the perimeter, and, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. You know, I mean, we need to be thinking about walkability on the new campus. I mean, if we're not, you know, and everywhere, every time we do an improvement, I think that's got to be one of our big focuses. Period. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
There's gonna be a walkthrough on the new projects, so we can look at them?
Well, we just did on, what date was it? August 8th? But we can schedule another one when they're completely done. Yep. We usually do one every month. Normally, we have a superintendent's walkthrough, so we can just start that up again. It's been a while since we did it.
Yeah.
It used to be
Glenview,
the,
I think, was
used to be the routine.
The joint meeting with the city and is going to be where?
The joint meeting is here, and it is September 25th at 6. Thanks for reminding us all of that.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing none? This meeting.